JustinFREAKIN, the formidable voice in the culture.
Hey Justin, are you trolling?
Come on, man.
This is the Troll Patrol, live with JustinFREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live. It's a freaking Tuesday, a freaking Pride Month. Happy Tuesday, happy Pride Month to everybody. Welcome, Flash, Warlord. The parliamentarian will stop the fash. No. What we're going to get lucky is the fact that the fash is fighting amongst themselves, and that's going to wreck their bill. Rand Paul saying the bill will not pass. Julie, welcome in. Yeah, let's get high. Let's get high. That's a good idea. I'm not high enough for this shit. Who canceled Pride Month? I'm not aware of this. Nobody canceled Pride Month. We're jamming it out. Look. Clinically, welcome in. Men's Mental Health Month. Men's needs a lot of mental health. Men's be needing a lot of mental health. Be crime, do gay. Yes. I haven't got gay in a while. I'm going to get gay here for Pride Month. I try to always do at least one gay hookup during Pride Month. I really like I had multiple different rainbows I used for the background. I like this one the best. I think last year I might have used a brick wall. For many years I've used a brick, because a lot of people don't understand that Pride started as a riot at Stonehenge. No, hold on. Because it looks like that pink cocaine that Diddy be giving everybody. Yeah, Stonewall. Pride was a riot at Stonewall. That's the reason why I always used the pride flag with the bricks. Went with something a little different this year. Just because I thought it looked prettier. I do like the gay coke. Gay coke. And actually, you see the border around my camera and around the entire video? That actually started as just like whatever my Pride Month graphics were the first year I was doing the Troll Patrol, and then I just incorporated it into the rest of my graphics. I was like, I like the Pride Month border. Cause like it's even labeled, the PNG on my computer is labeled Pride Month border. But it's my border all the time, because we're always showing pride. Welcome. If you are that dipshit that I've been arguing with on YouTube, I would love for you to call in. Guy came to, I don't even remember what video it was, probably Hassan. I got a lot of play off of that Hassan video. Dude came and said, all demon rats are Hamas supporters. Like, that's like his first comment to me. I'm like, dude, the highest ranking Democrat in the country is a Jewish man and a hardcore Zionist. You're right, Flash. I really do. I don't do a good job of promoting myself and putting myself out where I need to be. Hell yeah, Julie. Light one up, tip one back. For Pride Month. For all you freaks out there. Speaking of which, I do have I'm not ready to like officially launch it just yet, but we have the Give Send Go, Give Send Pray, whatever the fuck you want to call it. When I officially do the launch, I'm going to do a video on here and then attach it to the campaign. Libtard will tattoo MS-13 on his knuckles. YouTube and Twitch streamer JustinFREAKIN is raising funds for a one-way trip to the notorious Seacot prison in El Salvador. You can help deport a filthy woke communist by contributing to his campaign to get him to live stream someone tattooing MS-13 on his knuckles. If Justin is able to meet the campaign goal, and I'd originally said it at $6,669. But then I was like, well, if I want these right-wingers to give to it, having 666 and 69 in there is probably not the best thing. So I changed it to around 7. You know what? 2 people have prayed. 2 people have prayed so far for me. We're going to set it with July 4th. July 4th is going to be the campaign goal. Now, I've said it. I do not expect Flash, honestly. Okay, I went back and forth on the amount for a while in my head. Because here's the way, I don't think it matters the amount, because if the thing takes off to where I'd reach the amount of $7,000, I think it will exceed $7,000. But yeah, I think Flash may have talked me into the 1488. Okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna let my buddy just tattoo MS-13 on my knuckles for the cover up. If he wants to, because he's not a tattoo artist, but he's been practicing like on his own leg and shit. But like because he is actually a good artist. I've seen his drawings, and like if he wants to practice and come up with something, a cool cover up for my knuckles, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, I need to come up with something cool that down the road I'll actually cover it up. If you would like, I'm not expecting anybody in my chat to donate to this. I mean, you can. The money will go to me. It is my give, send, go. I created this. I'm gonna be updating it. I'm gonna attach a video to it eventually. That'll do even better, I hope. If you'd like to go pray for me, please go pray. I'm going to try to get this money from dipshit right-wingers that want to see me get deported. I think this is a publicity stunt, is what they call it. Give this man some money indeed. This is a publicity stunt. Send me to CCOT. If they want to fuck with me, unfortunately, I'm not on Rumble right now. Maybe tomorrow or the next day, I'll have everything set back up to where we'll be on Rumble and Kick and D-Live and all that good shit. If if I make this happen, because this is trying to get them to waste time on me, a legitimate citizen. If I'm going to make this happen, like if this ends up getting tattooed on my knuckles, when I leave this apartment, I'm going to have a bag with my birth certificate, social security number, driver's license everywhere I go. I'm going to have my papers with me. So, I mean, I love, yeah, you have no idea. I have the biggest crush on Leisha Miller. Oh, and that's another thing. If this actually happens, I need you guys. Remember, I'm estranged from my family. So, should something happen to me, should I not pop up on stream, and ISIS actually come and got me, you haven't actually heard from me, and I've not given you like, hey, I'm taking a week off, and you're actually worried about me, I need you to get a hold of Hassan, Majority Report, Leisha, the Surfs, anybody like that who can raise awareness and get my case, not because I'm special, but because if they have locked up a U.S. citizen, that is something that needs attention. If something were to happen to me like that, I would assume that Curiouser would come and take care of my kitties. Streaming live from the ICE Detention Center. Sports cards, good evening. My lord, but just make sure people know that I've been kidnapped by ICE. T-minus, I tell you good evening. Welcome. Yes, let's get more high. We got a hell of a lot of news to cover. The media winch come in here. Media winch, good evening. Hello, darling. Thank you for the resub. I did not see it last night. Let's get to that news. I didn't do the rundown, but let me tell you, I got some crazy fucking shit, and I'm not gonna leave you hanging tonight. Last night was kind of a short one. Tonight's gonna be a long one. That's what she said. Starting off with some foreign affairs. We're going to South Korea. They have elected a new president.
In the last few moments, we have received some breaking news from South Korea. We've just received the official final results in South Korea's snap presidential election. And as we've been reporting, the Liberal candidate Lee Jae-myung has won the presidency at the highest turnout for decades. The election was called after the previous president, Yoon Suk-yeol, was impeached for attempting to impose martial law. The new president's inauguration is expected on Wednesday. Speaking in the last hour, Mr. Lee said he would do his utmost not to disappoint the expectations of voters and would work from day one to fix the economy and ensure there are no more coup attempts.
The first mission that you have granted me was to overcome the insurrection and not
Lee Jae-myung,
the civilian with the weapons that shouldn't be used against the people. And secondly, I will recover the economy and recover the people's lives.
Well, the defeated candidate, Kim Moon-soo, conceded shortly after Mr. Lee's victory speech. In a short address, he thanked his supporters and wished Mr. Lee...
Yes, the current president not allowed to run. Or the incumbent president not allowed to run because unlike in our country, when you try to do a coup, they actually bar you from running from office. So the incumbent was not allowed to run in this election. This was the opposition party.
Honorable South Korean people,
candidate.
I will accept the decision made by the South Korean people, and I'd like to
the conservative,
newly elected candidate, Mr. Lee. And I will not forget all the support from the people of South Korea, and I also like to thank my colleagues from the party for their hard work. South Korea has been constantly moving forward despite the threat and difficult times. I also like to sincerely thank the South Korean people for their overflowing support for someone who is not good enough.
Well, let's take a closer look at how the day unfolded and what it...
I assume that was just a weird translation for someone who is not good enough.
Flowing support for someone who is not good enough.
Well, let's take a closer look at how the day...
Like, that's just one of those things where, like, what he said in South Korean didn't have a good direct translation, right? Because that sounded really weird. Thank you for your support of someone who was not good enough.
Day unfolded and what it now means for South Korea. Our Seoul correspondent Jean Mackenzie has more.
As the exit polls came in, the Lee camp erupted.
Yeah, he's making like a self-deprecating joke, probably, and it didn't translate well.
Back under military rule, power is changing hands.
This candidate campaigned on one very clear promise, that he was going to ensure martial law can never happen again. And it seems tonight that this is what South Koreans have decisively chosen, that they have once again rejected what happened on that night back in December when the country was so nearly brought back under military rule.
We have gained hope again. For the last 6 months, the Korean people have overcome the cold winter and have come together.
The celebrations started before the polls even closed. This victory was clear from the start. Lee, long considered a divisive character who has criminal charges against him, pulled in people with all shades of politics.
Who has criminal charges against him.
South Korea back onto stable ground. As they cast their ballots,
What are the criminal charges? Now I need to know this kind of shit. What?
people felt the weight of their vote. For Hyo-hun, today was about building a future for his 2-year-old daughter.
We need to stop the martial law from happening again in the future. I hope after today, our president will better serve the Korean people and stabilize the country so we don't have to worry anymore.
Before Lee can fix the country, he must first face urgent challenges abroad. There are existential negotiations to be had with President Trump, not just about tariffs, but South Korea's security. The US defends South Korea. There are thousands of troops stationed here, but Trump is reportedly considering removing some of them. Seoul is hoping to use these ships as a bargaining chip.
This is the largest shipyard in the world. They build 40 to 50 ships here every year, from warships to gas tankers and these huge commercial vessels.
In contrast, US shipbuilding is in decline. Its naval fleet now pales in comparison.
Okay, so he had been cleared of previous accusations of violating election law, but an appeal filed by the prosecutors to the Supreme Court of Korea overturned his acquittal, returning it to the Seoul High Court. The Seoul High Court will be required to deliberate the case again and then refer it to the Supreme Court for a final decision. The initial date of retrial was set for May 15th, but was later delayed to June 18th, which is after the election date. Huh. So yeah, it might have had something to do with the martial law declaration. It might not be valid. Holiday, welcome in.
Reportedly considering removing some of them. Seoul is hoping to use these ships as a bargaining chip.
This is the largest shipyard in the world. They build 40 to 50 ships here every year, from warships to gas tankers and these huge commercial vessels.
In contrast, US shipbuilding is in decline. Its naval fleet now pales in comparison to China's, and Korea is hoping to step in to build and repair America's warships.
The shipbuilding is the strongest part to negotiate the tariffs with the United States government.
Already they've gathered to welcome their president, but this honeymoon will barely last the night. Lee must take office immediately, and Koreans are trusting him to steer the country responsibly. Jean McKenzie, BBC News, Seoul.
The reporters are not necessarily bad at their job. They might have done reporting on the charges against him earlier in whatever show we were watching. They may have filled in that context at another time. I've been in the broadcasting business for 25 years. I tend to take up for broadcasters or try to explain to you why things are the way they are, which is usually because of capitalism. With reporters and broadcasters and all that good shit. A Russian-built bridge in Crimea was hit with underwater explosives. Going back to the BBC again.
To Ukraine because Kyiv says it's carried out another major sabotage operation against a strategic Russian target, the Crimea bridge linking Russia to the occupied peninsula. Intelligence services in Kyiv say explosives.
Paradigm shift. It was last Tuesday, but I appreciate it. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I hope you had a good trip.
Were planted underwater and dead.
Yeah, it's my birthday again. Let's celebrate. Yeah, it's totally my fault.
Of that attack. So let's head to Kyiv and our correspondent Paul Adams, who is there. And Paul,
we'll come back to this. That is totally my fault. I hope you had a good trip. Did you go to DC? My friend, Paradigm Shift was in to do the roast that was supposed to happen yesterday, because I was doing the roast for my birthday. That was supposed to be like the birthday stream, but like just getting everybody together and making it happen. I've been kind of lackadaisical over the last month. Then I had the computer issues happen, so it was extremely sick. Hell yeah. Have you already done a stream and talked about it? I haven't been able to catch anybody because I've barely been on the computer. Like Sparkles got really upset when I told her I had to cancel the roast. And then I'm like, this is the first message I've sent you on my computer in days because I've been down. I'm just glad to be back on my computer. Oh, you're doing that now? Are you on stream right now? Cool. Because you can totally hop in the Discord with me. I'd love to hear about your trip to DC if you want to talk about it. Unfortunately. I'm packing a bowl. I'm getting the marijuana ready. Anybody who'd like to smoke with me. Wait, are you even... I'm not friends with you on Discord. I always have to message you on Twitter. Are you on Discord? If so, we need to link up. That makes me feel special that you took time while you're streaming to come over here and tell me happy birthday. That Paradigm Shift's a good fucking guy. Oh, this shit's really good. Platinum cookies, I think, is what I'm smoking. Fucking excellent. I highly recommend this strain. Very much enjoyed it. Whatever Curiouser had last night, it had some weird name. Also, Curiouser probably watching. What did they open with? Probably watching something like For Whom the Bell Tolls right now. She is in Hotlanta seeing Metallica currently, right now at this moment. I'm excited to hear about it because we watched it on stream for live Music Monday. I'm not that big of a Metallica fan. I enjoyed watching it. I think she and I are going to the Weekend end of next month, I think. And that I'm totally down for. I'm way more excited for that. Nah, I don't think we're gonna be able to swing Wu-Tang. I thought I was gonna be able to do that, and I'm not, unfortunately. Unless like the Give Sin Go takes off. I'll use some of that money to buy Wu-Tang tickets. Yeah, I'm not like jealous of her or anything, but she was. I don't think she's that big of a Metallica fan. She's just like, oh, this will be a really cool show, because it's her friend that bought the tickets. The friend who has the cat to give to Media Winch. And that's what a fucking week Curiouser has, that she went to Atlanta, and she's not off work. Like, she took like a half day today. She works tomorrow, I think. Oh, my lord, do you not know about this? No, she absolutely needs this cat. Curiouser's best friend is a vet tech. And so they get, rescues or surrenders or whatever you want to call it. And like this dude had to be surrendered. And there's been like a big fight over him because he's a Maine Coon. His name is Lucifer. And Curiouser told her best friend, like, that cat needs to be with Media Winch. So they had set it up, and Media Winch thought she was getting him about a month ago, I guess. But, like, because he's a Maine Coon, because he's special, like, there's been a fight over who would get to rehome him or whatever. I don't know all the particulars, but because they were throwing a big deal, like, why does he have to fly to California? Why does he have to fly to California? So, like, I guess the other people in the office are making a big deal about it, but, Curiouser told her best friend, like, no, that cat belongs with Media Winch, because Media Winch will take perfect care of him, knows how to take care of a Maine Coon. Just lost a Maine Coon, a year or two ago? I don't know about the toes thing, Flash. If Curiouser wasn't at a concert, I'd ask her. What they call that, didactic or something? But, like, boy, is he cute. So he's about 2, I think, is what they said. He's very vocal. Gorgeous coat. Here's one. Yeah, here's the side that really shows off his coat. Oh, maybe you might be able to see his paws there. I don't know, maybe. You can ask Winchy Poo here next week. At this time next week, he will be at his new home. Look at the fucking markings on him. God damn, that's a pretty cat. So yeah, absolutely belongs with Media Winch. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And I'm glad that he will be with Media Winch come Saturday. I think Saturday is the day they're flying with him. So fucking Curiouser traveling all across the country. Polydactyl. What did I say? Pterodactyl? That's a type of dinosaur, isn't it? I think that's what I said, pterodactyl. Because I'm stupid. Alright, back to the news. We barely even got into the news, and then I got sidetracked. Russia apparently had a bridge built in Crimea. Ukraine has hit it with underwater explosives and yet another daring attack by the Ukrainian military.
To Ukraine because Kyiv says it's carried out another major sabotage operation against a strategic Russian target, the Crimea bridge linking Russia to the occupied peninsula. Intelligence services in Kyiv say explosives were planted underwater and detonated just before 5 o'clock this morning. Those the picture of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Even our correspondent Paul Adams, who is there. And Paul, tell us a little more about what the authorities have been saying.
Yeah, Matthew, this is the second time in 2 days that the SBU has been claiming responsibility for a major operation. Clearly nothing on the scale of the attacks on the Russian air bases on Sunday, but nevertheless a very important and significant target. The Kerch Bridge has been the object of Ukrainian anger and hatred ever since it was opened in 2018. It was a pet project of Vladimir Putin. He personally opened it just 4 years after Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula.
But what are we seeing explode here exactly? Hold on. Is this the support? The bridge is up here, right? And this is the support. Did it take the support out? Is the bridge actually out of commission? It looks like it might have just, damaged it.
Crimean Peninsula. It formed a link.
Is this some sort of water reservoir or some shit, right? Like that's not part of the structure of the bridge.
The Russian mainland and, of course, what Ukrainians continue to regard as occupied territory. In 2022, the Ukrainians tried to blow it up. They used a truck bomb. I was here at the time. I remember the sense of absolute euphoria that greeted that operation. Now, as far as today's operation is concerned, it doesn't appear to have done a significant amount of damage.
Yep.
The bridge was reopened a short time afterwards, although we understand that this afternoon the bridge was closed again, possibly following a second explosion. So it is kind of an ongoing situation. But I think the kind of overall message here is that Ukraine is showing that it is on the front foot, that it is able to hit Russian targets sort of at will, and that the Kerch Bridge remains very much in their sights.
Yes, one remembers and recalls Donald Trump saying to President Zelensky, you haven't got any cards to play. Well, perhaps over the last 48 hours, we've seen a different story. But in terms of an attack...
Oh, God, I keep hearing that.
...we saw over the weekend, it is strategic.
Liberals making fucking memes about it.
It's highly symbolic. It is regarded as a massive symbol of Russian occupation. That is how all Ukrainians regard it. And it is also, as you say, strategic. In the run-up to the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, we saw all kinds of military traffic passing this way and that over the Kerch Bridge, which is both a railway and a road bridge. And then after that truck bomb, we saw it closed for quite some time. For a long time after its opening in 2018, it represented the only link between Russia and occupied Crimea. Of course, after the invasion, as Russia seized all that territory north of the Sea of Azov in southern Ukraine, the links with Crimea became twofold. But it remains an important logistical route for the Russian military. It is beyond the reach of artillery and most of the other weaponry that Ukraine has at its disposal. But we know from repeated efforts that they have explored all sorts of ways to try and blow it up. This appears to have been a significant amount of explosive, in excess of the equivalent of 1,000 kilograms of TNT. The Russians, who are reacting online on various Telegram channels, are talking about the use of...
Yeah, they mentioned that last night in the report we watched,
Ukrainians have experimented with...
I don't actually know what that means,
so,
though.
Everyone knows that one way or another, the Ukrainians are determined to, at the very least, interrupt traffic along the bridge, and at most to bring it down altogether.
Yes, and I thought an interesting line in the details we've heard so far is that the explosives were planted underwater over a lengthy period of time. Paul Adams there in Kyiv, thanks very much for the latest on that developing.
I'm glad I've got everything back set the way it's supposed to be. Didn't feel quite right last night when I was on. Let me hit the content warning for this one. I had to check the headline on this because it happened yesterday, or it happened Sunday and then yesterday as well. Once again, this is time fucked up. Because, you know, the difference between here and Israel, with more than 24 people killed at a humanitarian aid site.
Welcome to the News Hour. It's designed to deliver food to the most desperate, but for the third time in 3 days, Gazans faced gunfire outside a humanitarian aid site. Today, as many as 27 Palestinians were killed by Israeli soldiers. That's according to Palestinian health officials and the International Red Cross.
Some 500,000 people in Gaza are extremely food insecure and are on the verge of famine. Nick Schifrin begins our coverage, and a warning, images in this story are disturbing.
It has to be a famine at this point.
End their hunger.
We've been talking about the verge of famine for like a year.
More than 24 killed before they could pick up food. Some died anonymously, their body bags marked name unknown next to the time of death. For others, irreplaceable loss. Ahmed Zidan will never again see his mother. Mom, please come back to me, he says. Please come back. Relatives say Reem Ahmed was killed trying to feed her family. Another son lays his head on his mother's body one last time. For Gazans, accessing the barest of necessities, beans, pasta, rice, has become a daily gamble with their lives, often for crumbs. Rasha al-Nahal shows what little she managed to collect.
We don't get anything. We see people getting killed in front of us and end up leaving empty-handed. We're tired and we can't take this anymore. We'd rather die than deal with this. Death is more dignified to us than what's happening to us.
The new sites are run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which funnels Gazans into small areas secured by private American contractors. The sites lie within exclusive military zones, and Israeli soldiers are right outside. Today, Israeli troops fired about 1/3 of a mile from the humanitarian site, only to protect themselves, said spokesman Brigadier General Effie Defrin.
Earlier today, I
protect them from what?
Out warning fire approximately half a kilometer from the aid distribution center, targeting a few individuals who were approaching in a way that posed a security threat. We are not preventing Gaza residents from
approaching in a way that poses a security threat. So they're lying here. They don't even have the decency to lie and say that they were shot at or anything. Even their lie is, they were just walking at us funny. Oh my God.
Accessing the aid distribution sites. The IDF is committed to uncovering the truth and will examine any incident that requires review.
But it's not the first time Israeli troops have fired outside GHF sites. And on multiple occasions, aid distribution has descended into chaos. UN and aid officials oppose these sites because they do not adhere to traditional humanitarian principles. International Rescue Committee's Kieran Donnelly told me last week.
The way that it's been organized, with limited distribution sites, forcing people to concentrate themselves in fundamentally undignified and inhumane conditions to receive
like food, cattle,
just simply doesn't meet that very basic test for good humanitarian work.
But Israel and the U.S. argue Hamas has been stealing aid to fund its attacks. And the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which opened a female-only distribution site today, is the best way to feed a hungry population that is terrorized by Hamas. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce said today.
They wouldn't need to be there if Hamas would lay down their weapons and release all the hostages and the bodies that they're also holding.
But the war goes on, as does daily displacement of families who are forced to find whatever food they can. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin.
Horrific. And unfortunately, this is causing people to act out in horrific ways in protest. And now the response to that is even more horrific. The family of the man behind the Molotov attack in Boulder on Sunday has been detained by ICE, a completely innocent family.
The family of the suspect accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at people in Boulder is now in federal custody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kim Christensen.
I'm Sam Shocker. As the suspect sits in a Boulder jail, the Trump administration announced his family will be investigated. 9 News investigators.
They're saying they could be deported as soon as tonight.
What we know about the family's current status and what's next for the suspect. Jeremy?
Yeah, we know the suspect, Mohammed Solomon, was from Egypt and came here to the United States 3 years ago and has been living in the country with an expired visa. He has 5 children, including a daughter who recently graduated from high school, according to court records.
No, DJ Dub. They are keeping him, and they're going to prosecute him. They have detained his family and are going to deport them, is what they're saying. And once again, the diaper on the ear. Build a wall around Egypt.
Years ago and has been living in the country with an expired visa. He has 5 children, including a daughter who recently graduated from high school, according to court records. This afternoon, news broke about the family of Mohammed Solomon being detained by the Department of Homeland Security, specifically ICE. The family lived in this home in Colorado Springs that has been the target of search warrants in the wake of Sunday's attack in Boulder. According to the suspect's statements and court documents, he told investigators his family was unaware of his planned attack. That attack on the Pearl Street Mall hurt 12 people. He is currently facing a federal hate crime charge and charges for attempted murder. This afternoon, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem posted online saying the suspect's entire family will be investigated for any knowledge of the attack. But this seems to be a quick investigation here because the White House posted on Twitter this afternoon that the family could be deported as soon as tonight. Mohammed Solomon applied for asylum about a month after entering the United States in August of 2022. He continued to live here with an expired visa. It's unknown what the immigration status is of his family members, but they are now in ICE custody somewhere. Back to you, Kim.
So,
DJ Dub, they were here. Or like the next town over today. And I also read a report that they are having Florida cops, Florida Highway Patrol cops, are embedded with ICE across the country. How wild is that?
if they're deported, are they any help in an investigation, Jeremy?
Well, you would assume if there is this window within 72 hours that investigators already talk to them and clear them if they're going to be deported, that indicates that they are not necessary to the investigation. But we'll see what happens if they are going to be deported tonight.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jeremy.
She didn't die from an illness. She didn't die because of an accident. She didn't die because she in any way provoked the defendant. She was just a random target of the defendant's cruelty.
Powerful and emotional morning in court as the man who threw the rock that killed Alexa Bartell faced his legal reckoning. Joe Koenig will spend the rest of
rock
in prison.
And that sentence was automatic after a jury convicted him of first.
They pulled more than just the story that they were doing. Try to get those YouTube ad revenue. I wasn't done talking about this wild Molotov attack.
New video of the suspect that we do want to show you right now.
We're here, brother. We're here. We can't do nothing about that. We can't do nothing. We can. Not here. You have to answer this. Not here, bro. You're not.
People are taking video right now. He was wearing an orange suit with like something on his back.
Spraying alcohol
alcohol, too.
Alcohol, but what he did was he made it look like he was here.
He's making Molotov cocktails. Well, we can't do it when he's got Molotov cocktails on. If you are fighting, that's what he's got right here. Is Molotov alcohol.
He looks very white.
Get back, Mom. Just stay away. Just stay away. He's right there. He's throwing Molotov cocktails right there.
Let both of them.
There you can see him dousing.
Video, you can see law enforcement right there handcuffing the suspects.
One of the people that was
his back.
hit.
He was yelling, and you can hear very concerned people saying, "Don't get too close," because he has Molotov cocktails there in his hands. You can see a lot of the gasoline and the debris, and one person also being administered to. That is the suspect right
Yes,
there.
here, Flash.
Mohammed Sabri Solomon arrested at the scene. We saw it right there. You can see in his hands still holding those Molotov cocktails, and some of the grass in front of him also with flames still on it. We did want to share the very latest from the FBI and other law enforcement agencies right now.
Guys shares in the sorrow of the Boulder community, especially to those who have family or friends injured in this tragedy. We have surged resources and personnel to the scene. Our special agents, our victim specialists, and evidence response teams are doing everything they can to assist our law enforcement partners. In the coming days, we will continue to support the victims and help uncover the events.
Oh yeah, it's a whole industry, the IDF.
Know that
training law enforcement.
We grieve with you, and we are here to help for as long as it takes.
I got this piece from a couple of hours ago. It says we have new details on the man. Yeah, it's from 2 hours ago. Let's see if it adds anything to the story.
New details about the man accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at demonstrators in Boulder. Investigators now say he was planning the attack for a year. And this as the DHS secretary announced federal officials have taken the Egyptian national's wife and children into ICE custody to learn if they had any knowledge of that attack. Jason Allen has the latest developments tonight from Boulder.
Authorities say Mohammed Sabri Solomon was disguised as a gardener to get closer to a group holding its weekly demonstration.
Well, this is an angle I haven't seen.
Investigators say he wounded a dozen people using a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails. More than a dozen unused Molotov cocktails were also recovered. According to the FBI, witnesses heard Solomon yell, "Free Palestine," during the chaos. After Solomon's arrest, authorities said he expressed no regrets.
And when he was interviewed about the attack, he said he wanted them all to die. He had no regrets, and he would go back and do it again.
Lisa Turnquist says she took part in the weekly march many times before Sunday's event turned tragic.
I remember as I was running, the lady fell forward and she was on fire. I pushed my dog, because I have my dog in a car, he's elderly, and I grabbed his towel and I put the fire out.
The attack occurred just hours before the beginning of the Jewish holiday Shavuot. Denver resident Brandon Naster brought his family to Boulder.
Shavuot? What? I've never heard of that one.
The Jewish holidays are still going to be here, and the Jewish people are going to be here.
Boulder City Council member Tara Weiner knows 4 of the victims.
The Jewish community is beyond upset, outraged about what is happening.
Solomon appeared before a Colorado judge Monday. He faces dozens of charges, including attempted murder and committing a federal hate crime. His next court appearance is set for Thursday. Jason Allen, CBS News, Boulder, Colorado.
Seriously, I'd never heard of that one. What the fuck holiday is that? Jewish people just out here making up shit. They say words and they're like, well, that's a Jewish holiday. We gotta take it off. And everybody just goes with it. This one's got me. I'm gonna try not to cry. It gets me every fucking time somebody talks about this, because it's insane. This is the world we're living in here. children's YouTube host, Miss Rachel, says she'll keep advocating for children in Gaza, even if it means risking her career. The vitriol that this woman has received. Miss Rachel, the YouTube personality who has become wildly popular among toddlers, says she's willing to risk her career to stand up for children in war-torn Gaza. Miss Rachel, whose full name is Rachel Accurzo, is a children's educator who has become a sort of modern-day Mr. Rogers with denim overalls, a pink headband, and a cheery smile. She's like super sugary. She has billions of views on YouTube, where her videos and songs focus on language development. Recently, even Netflix began streaming some of her episodes, but she has made headlines in recent weeks for speaking out on her other social media platforms about children living inside Gaza. Her comments have sparked completely benign comments, by the way. Her comments have sparked backlash from people who say she has not spent as much time talking about Israeli children, which she apparently has. I care so deeply about every child. As a teacher, you have children from many different places, especially in New York City, and you care exactly the same about them. That's the basis of everything for me, is that children are equal, and they all deserve everything they need to thrive. So that's a little interview with Miss Rachel. You can totally go read that interview. I can't. That's the whole story tears me up. I can't do it. Go read it, though. War Machine, welcome in. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it together. Let's get more high. Seriously, Oregon gal. That's why it tears me up. Because she is clearly... I had no idea who she was until all this happened. But she is clearly the most genuine, caring person. And she is as pure in her motives as you can be, and they are attacking her relentlessly, and it's insane. I'm gonna try to get to funny stuff. So yeah, just everything about the story and that video of her with the legless kid had her legs blown off by an Israeli airstrike. And that's the video that pissed people off. What fucking world do we live in where that pissed people off? What kind of fucking ghouls are these? I mean, I like to have fun and cut up and mock people, but shit. All right, let's get to a story that's a little more uplifting. Someone with power taking it to the Trump administration.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
Remember the mayor of Newark New Jersey who was detained by ICE. I think he had charges against him and then they were dropped.
Another big story tied to the President Trump's immigration crackdown. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka is suing over his arrest outside a federal immigration detention facility in Newark during a protest last month. The lawsuit targets a federal prosecutor and federal agent, accusing them of false arrest, defamation, and malicious prosecution. His arrest prompted significant backlash from Democrats, and federal prosecutors dropped all charges days later.
Was it significant backlash?
Live in Newark with the details. Tony.
Hey, Tony.
And Liz, Mayor Ras Baraka says if he had broken the law that day, trespassing, it would have warranted a simple citation, he says. But what happened to him, someone needs to be held accountable and to answer for it.
To arrest me, to handcuff me, to drag me away, to take my fingerprints and a picture for a Class C and mugshots for a Class C misdemeanor is egregious and malicious. For me to appear in a hearing, and after the hearing for the U.S. Marshals to rush in and take me in the basement to take my picture and fingerprints again is egregious and malicious in my mind.
This was May 9th outside the gates of Delaney Hall, outside the gates, which the mayor says is Newark public property, that a crush of DHS agents arrested him for trespassing. He says initially a guard at the gate invited him in to join other lawmakers who were planning to tour the detention facility, but he left after Homeland Security Special Agent Ricky Patel ordered him off the property. Law enforcement body camera video shows the mayor being arrested outside the gates, being taken back onto the property to be processed.
When people see me in cuffs, they automatically believe I did something wrong, I was guilty, that I deserve to be in jail, that they caught me finally, that all this other kind of stuff, foolishness. And the reality is, I didn't do anything.
The mayor is also accusing the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, of defamation.
She said he willingly chose to disregard the law, which is false. And later that night, she went on Fox and again made false statements.
Habba posting on X before the mayor's press conference, shocking leak from Mayor Baraka's team. He is planning to sue the feds. But the mayor says this lawsuit is more personal against two people, Habba and Patel, who he says were directly responsible for what happened to him that day.
No, I'm hoping he sues the feds. Or he is suing the feds now. He's filed the lawsuit.
Pay me for the damages they've caused me. But at the end of the day, they should at least apologize.
So that lawsuit was officially filed today. Habba and Patel have 45 days to respond. The mayor also saying today that his case goes just beyond what happened to him. He says this is about protecting the constitutional rights of anyone who is charged or wrongfully accused. For now, we're live here in Newark. Tony Yates, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Tony. Good job. It got heated today in the Senate over the topic of judges, how much authority they can assert over administration officials. The senator from New Jersey got into it with the senator from Texas, who I am obliged to always show a content warning before I put his face on your screen. Here is Senator Ted Cruz.
Make two brief observations. Number one, it is interesting as our Democrat colleagues defend these nationwide injunctions that neither of them made any reference to the fact that the number of nationwide injunctions issued in the first 4 months is greater than the entire 20th century and is greater than all of the nationwide injunctions issued against Bush, Obama, and Biden combined.
That sounds like you have a executive branch that's out of fucking control. The Senate Judiciary Committee titled the hearing "The Supposedly Least Dangerous Branch. District Judges versus Trump." What a wild name for a Judiciary Committee hearing. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Nor did they address the disturbing fact that of the 40 universal injunctions that have been issued in the last 4 months, 35 of them came from the same 5 judicial districts. There is a reason for this. Blue state attorneys general and radical leftist groups are seeking out affirmatively radical judges who they know will enforce their own policy preferences. If it were simply, as our Democrat colleagues said, judges following the law, then you wouldn't have to keep going to the same radical judges over and over and over again, because judges across the board should do that. But the litigants know exactly who the zealots are that are on the bench. And
he's talking about like the District of D.C.
discussion about the urgency of protecting the safety of judges.
And the right does that all the fucking time.
Of every federal judge. But it is interesting because my Democrat colleagues were utterly silent during 4 years of the Biden administration when you had violent mobs outside the homes of Supreme Court justices. Unhappy with the Supreme Court's ruling in Dobbs, and the Biden Justice Department refused.
What violence? Senator Kennedy, what violence? I do the news every night. I don't remember there being violence. There were a few threats that had nothing to do with the people that were actually protesting outside of the homes. I don't remember if anybody even was arrested for a threat. Just nebulous threats floating around. What, you can't just call people protesting their government violent.
Used to enforce federal law and protect the justices. And my Democrat colleagues were perfectly happy with Supreme Court justices being threatened.
I don't think he's the chairman, Flash.
Coming from the Supreme Court justices. Unlike my colleagues.
It's like Grassley or something, isn't it?
Regardless of whether I agree with them or not, we should protect their safety. And every time you hear a Democrat senator talk about protecting judges from acts of violence, you ought to ask them, why did they not have a word to say about the Biden Justice Department allowing mobs to threaten?
It is Chuck Grassley. Look at me, knowing shit.
The families and children of Supreme Court justices night after night after night, while Biden's Attorney General refused to follow the law. And with that, I'll recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. They asked Winston Churchill after World War II.
Would you indulge me for a moment?
But we skipped ahead.
Indulge you every moment.
I appreciate that act of generosity. It's just something you said that I think is actually dangerous and should be addressed, and you're welcome. But when Judge Anderol was killed in New Jersey, the Republican colleagues in the Senate, their outpouring of support, their outpouring of concern, they're willing to work together on a bipartisan bill was extraordinary. It shows the truth of this institution that, despite some of the fiery rhetoric that you were saying,
sounds like you're kissing his ass, Booger.
Bipartisan, working bipartisanship. Cornyn and Coons, after the incidents you're talking about, got together and actually passed a bill to better protect our Supreme Court justices, many of whom are friends of ours. You know, Gorsuch and I disagree on a lot of stuff.
But you drink beers?
He did. We studied together at Oxford. This implication that there was silence when there were threats on their people's houses is absolutely absurd. I remember the rhetoric and the comments, the concern from Coons. I actually distinctly remember you, Chairman, on more than once condemning those attacks on Republican-appointed jurists. To say things like that feeds just the partisanship in this institution and feeds the fiery rhetoric. And it's just plain not true. It's just plain not true. And I think you know that, but we can pull from the record from my colleagues.
Cruz is a piece of shit.
Literally days afterwards condemning it. There's a lot of substantive things to say here, but to think that the lack of humanity when people's homes are being threatened was not in existence, I think that's unfair and really concerns me that you would say that in the way that you did.
Well, I thank my colleague from New Jersey. I will note, as John Adams observed.
He said it very eloquently.
And it is existing federal law, 18 U.S.C. section 1507, that makes it a crime to protest at a judge's home. And the law provides whoever with the intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent or of influencing any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building housing a court of the United States, in or near a building or residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer.
Now listen, I am down with those laws. And the reason they were passed was to stop like lynch mobs from intimidating judges and juries in the South to make sure, like, you know, black people were unfairly convicted. So the law's purpose is in the right place. I don't understand why that would apply to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is not ruling on matters like that. Fucking wokies.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
I think the Supreme Court should be susceptible to public pressure.
Or with such intent uses any sound truck or similar device or resorts to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. That is federal criminal law. Night after night after night, angry mobs were outside the Supreme Court justices' homes, and in the entire course of it, the Biden Justice Department prosecuted nobody.
Good.
The Attorney General sitting at that table, and multiple Republican senators asked him, why are you not enforcing the law? What they are doing is a crime. And my friend from New Jersey said, it is a lie to say we, the Democrats, condone this. I would challenge, my friend, find a single Democrat senator on this committee holding the Attorney General to account for not enforcing this law. I was here at those hearings, and I do not recall a single Democrat senator.
What you were asking for, Ted Cruz, is that you wanted the cops to arrest peaceful protesters for exercising their First Amendment right.
Saying to the Attorney General, you should arrest these people who are violating the law. You should protect the judges. I agree that there was general language against violence, but not a single Democrat senator that I ever saw in this committee was willing to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland to account for flagrantly disregarding the federal criminal law.
I think the First Amendment supersedes it.
The protesters, and I think wanted those justices harassed at their home.
I really appreciate that you've now shifted the accusation you made earlier. Your accusation was that we were silent in the face of protests at Supreme Court justices' homes.
At violence.
Again, we joined together in a bipartisan way, not only to condemn that, but to pass legislation to extend
also a good point, fire resist.
Block security protection, literally days.
They were protesting a decision afterwards.
Passed the Senate.
Not trying to influence a decision.
On May 9th. So if you're saying that we didn't criticize
Did the
Merrick
Biden
Garland,
DOJ arrest a single person under this law?
You are now changing the.
No, that is what I said. That is what I said.
Again, I'll pull the record.
Did the Biden DOJ arrest even one?
Again,
the answer is no.
My point to you is the accusation that the Democrats on this committee do not care about the safety of federal judges. I did not interrupt you, sir. I would appreciate if you let me finish. I am sick and tired of hearing the kind of heated partisan rhetoric, which is one of the reasons why we have such divisions in this country. The attacks we see from
I can't help but watch her.
the United States of America, trolling and dragging judges through is what we should be talking about. That puts people in danger. I'm simply taking issue with the claim that you made at the top that people on the Democratic side of the aisle do not care about the safety and the security of judges.
Consider Mazzy Hiroto like trying to sneak in there as Cory Booker is going off. I like that so much because she's like, oops, I came in the middle of some shit.
That puts people in danger. I'm simply taking issue with the claim that you made at the top that people on the Democratic side of the aisle do not care about the safety and the security of judges and said nothing. You said we were silent after people's houses were protested. That is a patent lie, sir. We were not silent. We took action. We joined in a bipartisan way to protect those judges, as was done in a bipartisan way to protect a New Jersey judge after their horrific attack at their home. So I see you now trying to shift the debate to whether we talk to an attorney general. I'm simply taking issue with this accusation that somehow we Democrats are so bad.
I take issue with the fact that he wants to arrest peaceful protesters.
To our judicial colleagues. And that is wrong. You could change the argument now that you want, but what you said was patently not true and was, in fact, a patent lie.
So
Ted Cruz is a liar.
The fact that my colleague from New Jersey raises his voice and says it's a patent lie and says he's doing so in defense of lowering the rhetoric. There is some irony to doing those two together. I'll point out that in the entire course of those remarks, Senator Booker did not dispute the central point I made, which is the Biden Justice Department
didn't arrest protesters,
prosecuted 0 people for violating the criminal law, and every Democrat senator on this committee was silent about it. And this was an ongoing pattern for months. And I would note also that the senator from New Jersey clutched his pearls about language threatening judges, and yet I do not recall a single Democrat senator of this committee saying a word when Chuck Schumer went to the steps of the Supreme Court and threatened the safety of the Supreme Court justices by name, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and he said, "You have unleashed the whirlwind and you will pay the price." And not a single Democrat senator had a word to say about this. And so their outrage is selective. And I will give my colleague from New Jersey a chance to just answer a simple yes-no question. Should the Biden Justice Department have enforced the criminal law against protesting at a justice?
Easy answer, no.
So the rank hypocrisy of Chuck Schumer apologizing the next day and you holding that standard for him and not for your president, who you actually rightfully described when you were running against him in a primary. I would love to run those tapes of how you perfectly talked about the danger of our president.
Oh my God, Cory Booker is so horrible.
But now you are failing, in fact, blind to the very things you're accusing Chuck Schumer of.
Jesus.
No an apology if it hit him in the head. Never has said apologizing. So again, you are very, very, sir, very, very deep into the waters of hypocrisy in your criticisms of Chuck Schumer.
So let the record reflect that Spartacus did not answer the question and did not tell us whether the criminal law should be enforced, because he knows the answer is yes, and he knows that the Biden Department of Justice was being wildly political and partisan in refusing to enforce the law because they disagreed with the Supreme Court justices' rulings.
Notice how he is saying, he's speaking in sound bites. He's doing it perfectly. You're not half wrong on he thinks the kids on TikTok are going to love it. He is speaking for like Fox News sound bites, and this probably made a really good sound bite because he is saying exactly what the issue is, what his flavoring of the facts are. And Booker just lets him get away with it. I don't even know that Booker knows what he's fucking doing. He got steamrolled by Ted Cruz. And Booker came out here with like these legalese and like, "Oh, sir, I have you no decency." And Ted Cruz just rolled all over him. That was pathetic. Oh, I thought Booker was at least going to throw up some points, but he did not. And Ted Cruz, that was a layup. That was Cruz was wrong on everything. That is embarrassing. Cory Booker learned to feel embarrassment. They're not my fighters. Cory Booker ain't my senator. Are you ready for this? Some of you have probably already heard it. It's a doozy. Department of Homeland Security head says that FEMA head was joking when he said he wasn't aware of hurricane season. Acting Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator David Richardson said that he was joking when he said at a meeting on Monday that he was not aware of the upcoming hurricane season. This is according to the Department of Homeland Security. Reuters reported that Richardson said at a briefing that he was not aware that the United States has a hurricane season, confusing the staffers at FEMA. The report, which said it was unclear whether Richardson was serious or joking, cited 4 unnamed sources familiar with the situation. Despite mean-spirited attempts to falsely frame a joke as policy, there is no uncertainty about what FEMA will be doing this hurricane season. FEMA is laser-focused on disaster response and protecting the American people. This is according to a spokesperson for DHS. The spokesperson added that Richardson is activated in preparation for hurricane season. Richardson took the reins at FEMA last month. The previous acting administrator, Cameron Hamilton, was removed from his job after he told lawmakers at a congressional hearing that he did not believe the agency should be eliminated. He got fired from his job for saying the agency that he was the head of shouldn't be eliminated. Hurricane season started, 2 days ago? June 1st? Caroline Levitt was asked about the FEMA director's comments.
We're now in hurricane season, and obviously there is great concern every year about the potential for that. Can you speak to how the president is planning to have the level of support, should it be needed, to be as it has been with a reduction in the workforce? And is he still comfortable with Administrator Richardson, who had talked, whether joking or not, about not being aware of a hurricane season for this country? What is the president's level of briefings on what may be required? If you could give us kind of an overall update on that.
Sure. Well, of course, we know that we are into hurricane season now, and I know FEMA is taking this.
Yes, happy hurricane season, everybody.
Contrary to some of the reporting we have seen based on jokes that were made and leaks from meetings, but Secretary Kristi Noem and the FEMA leadership are all over this. They are committed to ensuring that federal resources and tax dollars are there for Americans in need, and the president continues to review requests for emergency aid and carefully considering them. However, this president has made it clear we're not going to enable states to make bad decisions with federal tax dollars and then have the federal government later have to bail these states out.
What does that mean?
Be responsible with their tax dollars to do as much as they possibly can, and then the president will deeply and thoughtfully consider any requests for federal aid that come to his desk. And I think some of the media reporting we've seen on this.
Let's, yes.
There are
praying for Palm Beach
taking this issue seriously
to get wiped out.
With the president himself, who, as you know, on his first domestic trip back in office, visited both North Carolina and California, both of which were, of course, hit by natural disasters when he wasn't even president, but he took ownership of that and visited those places and those people immediately.
Is it
Brian?
About hurricane season appropriate, though, now that this is serious business, as you talked about?
It's serious business, Kelly, and I'm not going to engage in such fodder with a question like that. Brian?
I'm sorry, I skipped this. I've been debating on whether I was going to go back to it. Shelly, I didn't tell you good evening. Welcome in. I've got to. This is from the same hearing that we were watching from the Judiciary Committee earlier. You know how much I love the senator. He always gives me good sound bites. The title from Forbes says Kennedy goes absolutely nuclear on witness who called Supreme Court Justice evil. Oh my God. Look at what he's wearing.
Would any of you advise a client?
What's that called? That's not seersucker.
A federal court order?
No.
None of you would? How about you, Professor?
I mean, under most circumstances, we follow the government and private parties follow court orders. I suppose it's not, I would not rule out ever the possibility that in a sufficiently egregious order, there should be some consideration of whether there's a way.
So in some cases,
I think it's a qualified answer, yes.
In some cases you would.
In an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered, yes.
Okay. Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
What?
I'm not sure what if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse.
Don't insult Matlock.
Stuff, and I've read your writings. Yes, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House,
Sir, do you know how little respect I have for your opinion? I've read your stuff.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
Happy Pride Month, Senator.
You agree with, and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say, because I think you act on your political beliefs. And
as if you don't, Kennedy.
Your kids. So I'll leave you out of that. Do you think nationwide injunctions are being abused?
Certainly, Senator. I think that is.
They're being abused by both sides, aren't they?
Yes, Senator.
Wait.
Republicans and Democrats are forum shopping, aren't they?
Certainly.
I mean, I can agree to that.
Agree with that?
I think both sides are abusing them. I agree.
Okay. Both sides.
Yeah.
There are no clean hands here. Now, your suggestion is that
Jesus Christ
issues a nationwide injunction, there should be an automatic stay and an expedited right of appeal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you disagree with that?
I haven't given enough thought to have a position on it, Senator.
I suspect, Professor, your answer will be it depends on who's president.
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about this.
Wow.
What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day.
He's really feeling himself, isn't he?
I'm not suggesting it. I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a federal a president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer
Isn't Trump doing that like right now?
Clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright.
Yeah.
In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction.
Yes.
But in a case where the law is unclear.
You literally just threw out a scenario that Trump, like, we're seeing it right now. You're arguing about the nationwide injunctions against Trump for things like what he is doing.
Here, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that, Senator, because I think universal injunctions transgress the limitations under Article 3, even if the underlying merits are clear.
What?
I happen to agree with you. I don't think there's any basis under Article 3, under Supreme Court precedent, under the English common law for nationwide injunctions. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make and many.
If an administration is doing something clearly unlawful, there should be a nationwide injunction against them. Period. End of story. Especially as we've seen with the Trump administration trying to do things with expedience so that they can get around the courts, which take their time.
Many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him. Professor, let me ask you this while I have you. On April 22nd,
I certainly don't remember feeling impassioned about any injunctions that were issued against Biden. That I was up here like, oh, nationwide injunctions are a bad thing. I'm siding with nationwide injunctions are a good thing. The court should be able to stop an executive branch or even a legislature, which is overstepping its bounds.
2024. You said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
I'll take it your word, Senator. I don't recall using that word, but.
All right, here's what you said. You were talking about the majority opinion in Muldrow v. City of St. Louis. You said, quote, Justice Kagan, will she be able to control the opinion's future distortion by her evil colleagues? Probably not, end quote. Who were you talking about?
Sir, I'm very skeptical. If there's a transcription, it was probably a transcription error. I do not think I said.
No, you said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I'll tell you which ones.
I've been very critical of some members of the Supreme Court.
You made that statement, aren't you?
God, how are these people so bad at this? It is an absolute layup. I'll tell you which ones are evil, the ones that are bought and paid for by billionaires. How about that? You want to talk about Clarence Thomas? I'll call him fucking evil. Layup.
Senator, it doesn't sound like something that
I would say. You know what I'm embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil.
You should.
On your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay.
Well, Big as Dallas.
What? Big as Dallas?
To the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful of federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Durbin.
Her face. That's hilarious.
So I'm going to give the panel members an opportunity to.
Just Kennedy showboating again. Krell, welcome in. Anybody else I missed while that clip was going on? Frag, welcome. Good evening. The Secretary of Education, one Miss Linda McMahon, testified today in front of the Senate
Glad to have you before the committee. I wanted to turn to TRIO. I wanted to echo Senator Collins' support, but I know you wanted accountability, and you think it would be a good idea to have each grantee have to have benchmarks to address.
I think that we do need to have better accountability with TRIO, but one of the things that I
So
said
having limited time, but benchmarks up front would be useful to have these programs meet.
Yes, I
maybe
think they
have them
would.
do an annual report on meeting those benchmarks.
Accountabilities, yes, because we don't now
Great.
have the ability to track that.
So actually, those benchmarks are set now, and each grantee has to do an annual report. Have you read those annual reports?
I've not read them all, no.
Okay,
But I
because
do,
I also
know
wanted
that
to-
they're not following all
Well,
those different laws.
so-
And I've also said that if Congress...
Madam, just let me finish if I can. And that is that you said there was no accountability. I just pointed out that two of the things you'd like to see, which are benchmarks and annual...
This is Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon.
In addition, the Pell Institute published a recent summary of 4 of the studies the Department of Education did on 4 of these 8 TRIO programs. Have you looked at those reports? Because they did a thorough evaluation of these programs.
I have not personally, no.
Well, that bothers me for you to come before us today and say there needs to be accountability, and yet there is accountability, and it just seems like a cover story for saying we don't want to help blue-collar kids make it into college. And I must tell you,
I want to get back to this tongue lashing that Linda is receiving. RE918, you're our lurker love of the night. You don't have to say anything. Just wanted to give you a shout out. T-minus redeem the lurker love. We're glad to have you here. You guys just lurking in the chat. You make the world go round. I've been told some channels will ban you for lurking, and I'm like, why? You want viewers, don't you? Isn't that what you're striving for? Just because they're not participating in the chat, light one up, tip one back. We got a lot of chat participation, like smoking weed with the host. Whoa! I didn't tell you good evening. As a complete aside, Vince McMahon has filed the paperwork for his new company. Apparently, he wants to buy back the WWE. Word has come down from the WWE, it ain't for sale. What is going to happen? I swear to God, if somehow Vince McMahon is back in charge of that company, I am going to shit a brick. It has been so much better without him. I mean, there's a few things I don't like. A lot more ads now without Vince. They've sold ad space on the ring that was something Vince was always against. But the actual wrestling has been so much better. Anyway, this is Jeff Merkley from Oregon.
well, most of my colleagues here, they're not blue-collar kids. I am. I know how hard it was to make that leap into college. I know the difficulty of the culture when you grow up in high school and you never talk to anybody about going to college, and you don't understand what that's all about in that world. And these TRIO programs have resulted in 6 million students graduating through those programs. And you want accountability? Well, what did those studies say that have been done by the Department of Education? They said upward bound students twice as likely to earn a bachelor's degree. Talent search students 33% more likely to enroll in college. Veterans upward bound, 42% more likely. I'm going to go on to my next question, but let me just say, your argument that there's no studies, no accountability, is just actually wrong. And the fact that you're coming here, even having looked at your own department studies of these programs in order to be informed about them, is profoundly troubling. Let me turn to the cost of higher education. This is also very important to a blue-collar kid. Folks in my community today, because I still live in a blue-collar community, they say, we're not sure our kids should go to college because they'll end up with a millstone of mountain of debt and maybe no job. And here you are making it more expensive. I wonder if you know how much a student in Germany has to pay in tuition for university.
They probably get paid to go.
Zero. What about the
They probably get a stipend.
economic zone?
Sir, we don't live in Europe. We
It
live here
is
in the
zero.
United
But my
States.
point here is those countries are saying we want every child to thrive. We want every child to have opportunity. We don't want them to be saying our kids, maybe we should tell them not to go to college because they'll have this mountain of debt. And that opportunity, that's American values of opportunity for every individual. And here you are raising the cost of college, making it much harder for ordinary kids from blue-collar backgrounds to be able to pursue their dreams. And I find that totally inconsistent.
It's appalling.
With the campaign where he said he would fight for ordinary families.
No, I have to disagree, sir. We're not raising the cost of college. We are
Bullshit.
actually, with all of the programs that we want to put in place, we want colleges to reduce their cost.
Well, actually, these loan programs that you're changing are making it much more expensive for kids to go to college, and they're getting.
We've
the
not
message.
changed loan programs.
I'm going to turn to mental health because I'm very concerned about mental health. A few years ago, before COVID, when I was in a meeting with student counselors in Eastern Oregon, a very rural area, and they said, you know, we're seeing kids come in our early ages, and they're acting out much more than they ever did before. And I said, well, is this because was there a factory that just shut down here, or a mill that just shut down, or an infusion of wave of meth? And they said, no, those are all, the economy's a factor, drug use is a factor in our community. But no, those aren't new. And one of the counselors said, this is what's new. And they pulled out their cell phone. This is what's new. Kids are coming in with far less understanding and ability of how to sit in a collaborative environment like a classroom and how to communicate with other children and teachers. There is a book that just came out. My staff happened to put it on my desk this morning, so I'm going to ask for Chapter 5 to be put into the record, The Anxious Generation. And I was paging through it, and under Chapter 5, it notes that
I hate to be that person, but the phone is not actually, the phone itself, not actually the problem. It's the capitalism. He's pulling out a book about the anxious generation. What, like fucking social media makes you anxious? Instagram makes you have body dysmorphia? Nah, shit. It's the capitalism.
there are 4 factors in which these cell phones are affecting our children profoundly. Social deprivation, sleep
every single one of them is going to be some product of capitalism. Okay, social deprivation, sleep deprivation. They spend too much time on their phones because Facebook wants to maximize their algorithms to make sure you spend as much time going through their fucking feed as you can because they can show you more ads that way. Yes, it's capitalism. Thank you.
Deprivation, attention fragmentation, and screen addiction. I'd really encourage you to take a look.
All 4 of those were just the same fucking thing, and the symptom of the same fucking problem.
I've been urging the department to seriously look.
Boy, howdy, the lack of access to necessities.
Changing.
That causes anxiety.
And childhood is changing because of technology in ways that are really compromising the ability of our education enterprise to work well. But this brings to my point about why you have canceled mental health grants for our schools. We have 5 schools in Oregon that got grants to have more mental health counselors, and you have canceled them. Why have you canceled mental health grants in the middle of an enormously challenging time for our students?
We've not canceled mental health grants. We've said we're not continuing them after this year because we're going to allow those programs to be funded and to take a different look at them, but they have not been canceled. And I couldn't agree with you more about cell phones. Governor, there is...
They've not been canceled. We're just not going to renew them after this year. That is functionally the same fucking thing, Linda. Oh, my God.
Governors of several states who have said bell to bell there are not going to be cell phones in the classroom, and they are seeing upticks in their literacy and also in the social interaction. So therefore, states have the abilities at very different levels to go ahead and make decisions and to put their policies in place that can be effective.
Then the 5 grants that you have canceled that you are unaware of in Oregon, you will restore those 5 grants?
We've not canceled, we're not continuing those grants.
So if you discover that you have actually canceled grants that were already awarded, you will undo those cancellations?
I would like to get back to you on that. I do not believe we've canceled any grants. We're not continuing, but we will rebid them.
Well, you'll rebid them, meaning you're canceling them, but you'll rebid them.
We are not continuing them. We haven't canceled them.
Okay.
Continuing.
Well, I've got 5 schools that have received letters from you or your department saying their grants, their mental health grants have been canceled. They worked very hard to apply for those
Canceled
grants.
or not continued?
That they've been canceled, the grants that they have received.
What does it matter?
I didn't get back to you.
Obviously, when you get a grant, it's for work you're doing.
If they're not continuing, they have been canceled. This is basic terminology here. If the grants aren't continuing, you have canceled the grants.
From here forward. So if not continuing means as of today we're not funding it, then you canceled the grant.
No, you can rebid the grant, you can recompete the grant, and you can have different
Is that what you're doing?
aspects of it.
You said the grants you got, we're ending them and we're taking them back, but we're going to
I said we are not continuing them after this year. We will have a rebidding process to relook at those grants.
Rebid?
I strongly encourage you to understand how the changes you're making are hurting ordinary kids across this country who may have aspirations, and those aspirations may not all require going to college, but many of those aspirations can be well served by higher education, and you shouldn't be putting obstacles in their path.
Thank you. Senator Merkley, if you look, what we're doing has not worked.
All right.
So we're continuing to throw money at things that are not being successful. So we are trying to look appropriately at all of our grants and how the Department of Education is operating.
Madam Chair, I'll just say those programs have been successful. If you'd taken the very effort to read the evaluations of the TRIO programs, you wouldn't be here making that argument today.
All right, let's...
I got a friend who's like a director for the TRIO program, and she's wonderful. That program's wonderful. Linda's horrible. And this is why we're not number one in education anymore in this country.
Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Chair, what's the definition of insanity?
Of sanity or insanity?
Insanity.
That's not the actual definition, whatever you're going to get ready to say.
Same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Not it. That's not it.
What was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
I'm sorry, what?
What was we ranked nationally in math and reading in 1979?
What was we ranked nationally in math and reading in 1979? What was we ranked? What was we ranked in English? Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, this whole thing, this is amazing.
Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Chair, what's the definition of insanity?
Of sanity or insanity?
Insanity.
Insanity?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Right. And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1970?
That's like a joke. A comedian told it, or it's the precursor to a meme. That's where that comes from. The definition, it might be a line from a movie or something. Sanity is actually a mental state that prevents an individual from understanding the nature and quality of their actions or distinguishing right from wrong at the time of committing a crime. The state of being seriously mentally ill or madness. So just like from the get-go.
Of sanity or insanity?
Insanity.
Insanity?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Right. And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
I'm sorry, what?
What was we ranked nationally in math and reading in 1979?
We were very, very low on the totem pole.
We're number one in 1979. Today.
1979. Sorry. Okay.
In 1979, we were ranked number one in around the world. Today,
we were low on the totem pole. What was we ranked? I can't get over that. Oh shit. It's everybody's favorite time. He's acting weird. Lay down, Bubby. He's being like all posable and shit. Yes, lay down. Chill. Oh, Smokey is not shy. Smokey would love to show you his big old balls. not a shy kitty at all. It's wild that, like, my cat's probably, like, if you were to come over and hang out at my apartment, just some stranger, they might hide for a little bit, but they're probably all going to greet you within an hour or two. Maynard will be the most skittish. If one of them hides, it'll be Maynard. But if you've been here for a little bit, he's going to go sit in the corner and he's going to eyeball you and he's going to, like, try to mind fuck you. Because that's the kind of cat he is. I love that about him. Let's talk about the budget bill. First of all, before we actually get into the bill, Trump is asking Congress to make permanent some cuts that were made by Doge, $9.4 billion in spending. Trump is wanting Congress to claw back.
Well, it is a big week when it comes to President Trump's legislative agenda that includes both the big, beautiful bill and efforts by the administration and Congress to cut funding across the federal government. To make sense of it all, we start with team boxes. Both our Scripps News White House correspondent Haley Bull is standing by, but we start with Nate Reed, our congressional correspondent, who is up on Capitol Hill. And Nate, if you are following politics this week,
the BBW bill,
you're going to hear the word rescissions. What does that mean and what's the significance?
Well, it's effectively a cuts package, Andrew. What it does is it takes government funding that's already been sent through Congress and appropriated to the White House, and it cuts that money out of the federal budget. It can do so for money that's already been spent or is planning to be spent by the federal government. This has been a key priority of President Trump, and in some ways, this will codify his executive orders trying to yank funding unilaterally from some of these organizations like USAID, State Department programs, and even the Corporation for Public Broadcasting by pulling out that funding. All they need in Congress, though, is a simple majority vote to do it. This is kind of a funky situation where Democrats are not able to filibuster this.
This is not a funky situation.
This does not need 60 votes. It just needs that simple majority of 51 votes in the Senate. Now that President Trump's administration has sent this package to Congress, they've got the next 45 days to try and get this across the finish line. But Senator Cynthia Lummis, the Republican...
Now, I think Flash brought up the parliamentarian earlier. Here's the thing, is this bill should not be a reconciliation bill. There's multiple things in it that Democrats are calling bullshit on and taking it to the parliamentarian and saying, no, they can't do this through reconciliation. But the Republicans just, it looks like they don't care and they're going to do it anyway.
From Wyoming, telling me earlier today she's concerned about getting this thing across the finish line, even though Republicans believe this should be a slam dunk. Take a listen. Senator, on a rescissions package, are there certain rescissions? I mean, do you think that this thing could pass easily through the Senate, depending on what's in it?
Nothing's easy in the Senate. I thought stablecoins was going to be easy in the Senate. It has been arduous. And so...
Stablecoins?
Nothing's going to be easy.
Oh, my God.
So a lot of questions about how they get this thing across the finish line, what steps they're going to need to take. Also, Senator Susan Collins, the chair of the Appropriations Committee, saying that she's going to look at this package very closely. She's only got about 45 days to do so. She already said that she might have concerns with some of the cuts to public broadcasting that are in this package. Again, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting funds both NPR and PBS every single year. This bill would strip its funding entirely for the next 2 years, 2026 and 2027. In the past, it's been funded years in the future to try and prevent political interference. This rescissions package, this cuts package, would effectively get rid of that funding. Again, Andrew, Senate Majority Leader Thur.
It's already been allocated.
This looked at during this current work period meeting during the month of June. This could be a pivotal moment for the Trump administration, and passing this bill would prevent any legal challenges about the Trump administration's unilateral cuts to funding for some of these areas, including USAID programs.
All right, Nate Reed on Capitol Hill. Nate, thank you. Want to go down to the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue? That's where
I had a dude argue with me about public broadcasting because he was like, I think the only thing the government should do is protect the rights of the Constitution. I'm like, well, that's what public broadcasting does. If you have an issue that you want to talk about, you can go down to your public broadcasting radio station. You can get on it and talk about it. They have to give you time because it's public broadcasting. That's part of protecting the First Amendment, you stupid fuck. But they have cut funding for public broadcasting so significantly over the last 50 years. I think it's something like 3 or 4% is of the PBS budget comes from the federal government. It's such a minuscule amount. So at this point, like, Jesus.
we find White House correspondent Haley Bull. And Haley, I know you just had an opportunity to speak to one of the key White House officials involved in this effort. What's the latest where you are?
Yeah, Andrew, the White House's next step is making their case to lawmakers on this package that prioritizes cuts in what they view as, quote, wasteful spending, as Nate mentioned, in public broadcasting and foreign aid in particular. OMB Director Russ Vought speaking with reporters, indicating he thinks it will pass, but also acknowledging what he described as a harder way to pass it the wider the package is, as for reasoning why it didn't include all of the DOGE cuts. And in talking with reporters, Vought seemed to balance the desire for seeing it pass, but still maintaining flexibility for future steps, saying this about other potential avenues.
We have executive tools. We have the very Impoundment Control Act itself gives us the ability to send up rescissions at the end of the fiscal year. And if Congress does not act on it, that funding expires. So this has been used rare. Most people don't know about the process. We call it pocket rescissions. But again, it's one of the reasons why we are not putting all of our
I call it pocket pool. It's where I play with my dick.
And just
in public and nobody knows about it. RB.
More packages if they see success in Congress and the president supports it. But for this particular package, Vought saying they expect it to be on the floor potentially as early as next week.
All right, Scripps News White House correspondent Haley Bull. Haley, thank you for that update.
Haley dropping no bull on us. Elon coming out on Twitter saying he doesn't support the big beautiful bill. We've got some sort of feud going on. You hate to see it, right? Nobody to root for here, but like, get out the popcorn.
Well, President Trump is facing some stunning new criticism of his mega bill from one of his closest confidants and largest campaign donors. This afternoon, Elon Musk, just days after his big Oval Office farewell, blasted the president's One Big Beautiful Bill, which recently passed the House but is facing some Republican opposition in the Senate. Musk not holding back, posting, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore.
The future GOP mommy is going to reach into my pocket and play pocket pool."
Bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it.
You know it.
Went on to say it will massively increase the already
He's such a
gigantic
fucking
budget
idiot.
deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reacting in real time to Musk's criticism from the briefing room, downplaying the influence of the world's richest man.
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
Top congressional Republicans, though, were more forceful in their pushback. Here's the reaction we just got from House Speaker Mike Johnson, who worked for weeks to get the bill passed in the House, and Senate Majority Leader John Thur, who's trying to do the same.
With all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong about the one big beautiful bill.
Are you worried those comments going to unravel support? Some people are.
No, I'm not worried about that. We have to get this job done.
Is that Debbie from Shameless asking questions?
As he has an opportunity to further assess what this bill actually does, he'll come to a different conclusion. But nevertheless, I mean, we have a job to do. The American people elected us to do. We have an agenda that everybody campaigned on, most notably the President of the United States, and we're going to deliver on that agenda.
Musk's tweets came after the president took to social media.
Lenny, good evening.
Out at one of the Republican senators opposed to his legislation.
Oh, Rand Paul.
Saying in part, Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical or constructive ideas. This is a big growth bill. Well, here was the senator's response.
I think it's one of the most important debates of our time, and this is a debate over whether or not a country can have $36 trillion in debt, whether we can have interest payments over $1 trillion. I think it's an important debate to have. I don't make it personal at all. I like the president, supported the president. In fact, I'm for the tax cuts. They could get my vote, and I could vote for the package if they take out the debt ceiling and vote on that separately.
And NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard is with me now, along with NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor. Vaughn, I want to start with you. Any more reaction from the White House to Musk's tweets today?
Right. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, making it clear that the president already knew Elon Musk's position on this bill. 1 week ago, he had made an initial comment in an interview suggesting you can't have big and beautiful in the form of a bill that the GOP should approve of. And these comments, though, the social media flurry of posts, really doubles, triples down 5 days after Elon Musk formally left Washington. And the question here at this point in time is, what kind of influence does he continue to hold? Will he try to put pressure on lawmakers who have midterm elections coming up in 2026? And for the White House, will he try to be even more difficult of an outside ally, if you will, but somebody who could easily, if his influence is still what it was over the last 5 months, be able to bring down what the president in this White House has called a once-in-a-generation opportunity to pass a major Republican-backed tax bill and spending package?
And Sahil, I want to turn to you, but I want to pick up on something that Vaughn just said. You know, we saw what power Musk had over congressional Republicans in December. So what's the view on the ground from where you are? Does he still have that much sway over the conference now?
No.
Yeah, it's not exactly clear how much influence Elon Musk still has over Senate Republicans, Gabe. It's substantial. There's no doubt about that. But his influence largely flowed from Donald Trump and the fact that he was in close proximity to Trump. It probably peaked around the time of Trump being inaugurated and maybe in the early part of his presidency. But some of that shine has worn off as Musk has become a bit of a political liability, in the run-up to the point where he was ultimately dismissed from DOJ. But nevertheless, this does very clearly influence the debate among Senate Republicans as they now take ownership of this bill. They try to revise it and pass it, because Musk is calling out the hypocrisy here on the deficits, the fact that Republicans have sold this bill as an attempt to reduce the deficit when it actually does increase the deficit. Elon Musk is factually correct about that. Increases the deficit by over $2 trillion. Several Republicans...
His camera's not in focus. The statue is.
They do need to take a look at the spending aspect and the reading aspect and cut spending more, including Senator Ted Cruz, including Senator Kevin Cramer, who conceded that Elon Musk does have a point here. So the debate might be moving in the direction of the fiscal hawks, which could complicate what happens on the other end with the centrists.
You know, so it was striking that Speaker Johnson wasn't particularly shy about pushing back on Musk. He had some pretty pointed words. What else did he have to say?
very unhappy with Elon Musk was Speaker Mike Johnson. He has worked really hard to get this bill over the line through his narrow House majority. He's highlighting the fact that there are more than $1 trillion in cost savings in this bill. What Speaker Johnson isn't mentioning, however, is the fact that the tax cuts and the new spending increases on immigration enforcement and the military outstrip those savings. Nevertheless, take a listen to what else Speaker Johnson had to say in terms of questioning whether Elon had a business interest in defeating this bill.
It's a very important first start. Elon is missing it, okay? And it's not personal. I know that the EV mandate.
Who the fuck is that? And what the fuck is that on his head?
Very important to him. That is going away because the government should not be subsidizing these things. It's part of the Green New Deal, and I know that has an effect on his business, and I lament that. We talked about the ramp down period on that and how that should be duly considered by Congress, but for him to come out and ban the whole bill is to me just very disappointing, very surprising in light of the conversation I had with him yesterday.
That's the Republican Speaker of the House wondering whether the Tesla CEO is worried about the clean energy cuts and how it would affect his business. Notably, Gabe, I spoke to Senator Chris Murphy, the Democrat from Connecticut, who also said his response to the tweet was a broken clock is right twice a day. But he said he doesn't think there's any sincerity in Musk's complaints about the red ink, that he was only worried about his own business interests as well. So a little bit of interesting convergence there between the Republican Speaker and at least some Democrats.
Well, Vaughn, we just heard from Sahil there about the deficit, a fact check there. The White House, though, is dismissing the reports that this big, beautiful bill will actually add to the deficit. What's the justification there?
Right. They're playing defense on two fronts. Number one, the extent to which it does or does not, or just how big of the deficit this will add on to. And the Congressional Budget Office came out and suggested that it would add at least $3.5
I got a big one for you.
deficit over the next 10 years, which the White House has aggressively pushed back on. I want to let you listen to the White House press secretary make her case.
There hasn't been a single staffer in the entire Congressional Budget Office that has contributed to a Republican since the year 2000. But guess what? There have been many staffers within the Congressional Budget Office who have contributed to Democrat candidates and politicians every single cycle since. So, unfortunately,
everything with these people. It's not about like how fucking stupid you are, how ineffectual you are. No. It's that everybody is biased against you. Oh, it's not that we're passing bad executive orders over here, or coming up with bad policy and getting smacked down from the courts. No, it's that they're biased against us. Poor us, we're always getting picked on.
this is an institution in our country that has become partisan and political, and we are very confident in our own economic analyses of this bill.
Now, the Congressional Budget Office is currently run by a former Bush administration official. It has been long-standing that this is a nonpartisan entity that helps lawmakers situate and address whether they are going to vote for certain bills or not. And in the scenario of this White House, though, they're also playing defense.
Did Anna Paulina Luna just pop up on the screen?
There are Medicaid cuts, particularly, and making the case that if you're an able-bodied, hardworking American working 80 hours a month or volunteering 80 hours a month, that you are still going to be eligible for Medicaid, and that effectively those who will be taken off the rolls are those individuals who are not working, who are individuals that may be undocumented, which we know is not the case, but in some states, that there are 12 states in which that states do provide some Medicaid benefits to undocumented individuals. And so this is where you see the administration saying they will cut off some Medicaid funding to those particular states. So there's a lot of defensive approaches here that this White House is making to try to get this over the finish line.
And Sahil, before I let you go really quickly, the White House is also asking Congress to codify cuts to Doge cuts, rather, and also USAID and public broadcasting.
We already talked about that. They were going on too long. Someone who is throwing a wrench in GOP plans, well, at least she would have voted against the bill if she had known what was in it. She didn't read the bill. Marjorie Taylor Greene says she'll oppose Trump's big, beautiful bill if AI provision isn't removed. So she's saying she will vote against the version that comes back from the Senate if they don't remove the provision that she didn't know was in it the first time she voted for it. MTG is calling on the Senate to eliminate a provision that would ban state regulation of artificial intelligence from President Trump's big, beautiful bill, arguing it violates states' rights. Full transparency, I did not know about this section on page 278, 279 of the OBBB that strips states of the rights to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years. Green wrote Tuesday in a post on social platform Twitter, I am adamantly opposed to this, and it is a violation of states' rights. And I would have voted no if I'd known it was there. We have no idea what AI will be capable of in the next 10 years, and giving it free rein and tying states' hands is potentially dangerous. Green said she will not vote for the bill when it comes back to the House for final approval unless the provision is eliminated, complicating the math for GOP leaders. Mike Johnson went on the Sunday shows to defend the supposed cuts to Medicaid.
4.8 million number. That is a CBO number, by the way, which estimates how many people would lose Medicaid if this bill were to go into law. The CBO.
Wait, hold on. They don't, Kristen, they don't. Okay.
Let me make my point, and then I'll let you make your point. I think it's important to point out the CBO is not saying specifically those 4.8 million are engaging in fraud. They say many will lose coverage because of paperwork, red tape, or failing and falling short of the new rules. So just let me ask you directly, do you have any actual proof that these people are engaging in fraud? Millions of Americans, as you say.
This is a very important distinction. Those 4.8 million people will not lose their Medicaid unless they choose to do so. I will go into any town hall in any district in America and explain what this is, and every single person will nod their heads and go, oh, that makes sense. You're telling me that you're going to require the able-bodied, these young men, for example, okay, to only work or volunteer in their community for 20 hours a week, and that's too cumbersome for them? I'm not buying it. The American people are not buying it. This is a new...
I didn't know there was all these young people on Medicaid.
A long time ago. And the people who are complaining that these people are going to lose their coverage because they can't fulfill the paperwork, this is minor enforcement of this policy, and it follows common sense. When people work, when able-bodied young men work, it's good for them, for their dignity, their purpose, and it's good for the community they're in. If you can't find a job, then volunteer in your community for 20 hours and you will meet the requirement. That is a basic minimal standard.
He didn't. Oh, the clip really didn't go into it where he was talking about, it was right before where it started. He's talking about what they're actually doing is cutting out fraud in the Medicaid program. They're really concerned about fraud. Fraud. That's what we keep hearing about. Fraud against the government, people defrauding Medicaid, people defrauding Medicare. They care about fraud. That is what we keep getting told by the right-wingers. Donald Trump commutes the sentence of Miami healthcare executive convicted of Medicare fraud. A South Florida man sentenced to 50 years in prison for ripping off tens of millions of dollars from Medicare was among the more than 24 people whom President Trump granted clemency to this week. Lawrence Duran, the former co-owner of American Therapeutic Corp., a Miami-based company that ran 7 healthcare clinics between South Florida and Orlando, pleaded guilty in May of 2011 to multiple felonies, including defrauding Medicare, healthcare fraud, and money laundering. A judge sentenced Duran, now 63, to the longest prison term in the history of in history for Medicare fraud in September 2016. Trump issued Duran's commutation on Wednesday. Well, Lenny, here was an arrest and a prosecution. Duran and his girlfriend, the co-owner of the company and one of its therapists, filed 866,000 false claims with Medicare and received more than $87 million. Taxpayer money, received more than $87 million in taxpayer money. Their case was part of a much larger probe that included 22 other defendants, including senior company employees, psychiatrists, and patient recruiters. In all, the scheme involved $200 million in false billing. At the time, it was the nation's largest Medicare therapy ripoff scam in history. Valera, now 54, that was his girlfriend, was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Her sentence was reduced to 15 years, and she was released from custody in March of 2020. The fraud involved billing at Medicare for group mental health sessions that were either not needed or not provided to patients. Exactly, Dustin, welcome in. It's like a catch and release program. Michael, did I tell you good evening? Welcome in, friends. So glad to have you guys here. Can't believe we're talking about this again today. Vice President Vance slammed Democrats on Tuesday over a taco truck they deployed to mock President Trump with free food outside the GOP headquarters on Capitol Hill. We have the lamest opposition in American history, Vance wrote on social media. I kind of agree with him. This was in response to a post about the Democratic National Committee's taco truck, which features a depiction of Trump in a giant chicken costume with the words, "Trump always chickens out." There is a picture of the truck with several young ladies lined up to purchase tacos from the Trump taco truck, which is indeed a lame attempt at being opposition. The Trump administration has been hit with the taco moniker on Wall Street over the president's penchant to renege on policies after they proved to be unpopular. Democrats have embraced the phrase to more broadly blast the president over his policies. Trump always chickens out. We're just bringing the tacos to match, DNC Chair Ken Martin said in a statement on the food truck's message. Instead of realizing his tariff chaos is wrecking the economy, Trump continues to drag Americans towards more economic pain, and the rest of the world sees Trump for exactly what he is, a chicken. The term was coined by a Financial Times journalist, Robert Armstrong. The DNC hit back at Vance by recalling a viral video from an awkward donut shop stop during the 2024 campaign in Georgia. Fuck it, we've seen it. On the one hand, I want to mock Democrats for being incredibly lame. But on the other hand, I have to acknowledge that apparently, and this could be once again just liberal bullshit on threads or whatever, and it's just a rumor and it's not confirmed. But the rumor is that the White House doctors are worried that calling him Taco is going to give him a heart attack. I hate it here. I mean, I guess I gotta root him on. Taco Trump. Fulfill all your wishes with my taco-flavored kisses. He's both Biff and Marty at the same time. Leslie, welcome in. Good evening. I think the Dems are incredibly lame. I hate the taco thing. I think it's another example of just how stupid they are. And it just gives more fodder to the idiots on Fox News. This is the second day in a row that the five have done the same exact panel about how Democrats are unpopular. So here we go. It's the same segment I cut from last night's show, but it also happened today.
All right, so Dana, we're in June. Yep. The election was a while ago. We had tacos. We have the Suns giving them advice. How do you think the Democrats are handling this?
I think this is a cue for producers everywhere, that this is a story we can do every day from now until the night of election night 2028, because they dug themselves such a deep hole on the issues that people care about the most. So inflation, still an issue, but getting a little bit better. But people are still reminded that they've been paying higher prices since after COVID. You have the immigration issue. Every single day we are dealing with that, whether you can remember what happened at the border itself, or you have a situation like what happened in Boulder, Colorado with a visa overstayer. You have the fact that they spent so much time on climate change that they weren't dealing with the things that people really care about, jobs. And I would also add that the Democrats have continued to support the teachers union.
Their voters care about climate change.
Kids cannot read and write or do basic math. And we are going into a situation where we're going to compete with China. With what? With the robots? I mean, that is a little bit insane. I do think that their big problem, to me, is that Tim Walz is their spokesperson.
And I love that this is a roundtable of a bunch of multimillionaires talking about how the Democratic Party is no longer the party of the middle class. It's actually the party that elected the billionaire with the billionaire cabinet. Up is down, white is black, cats and dogs living together.
First of all, nobody could name the head of the DNC. Nobody could say who the head of the Democrats is. Nobody
Ken
is
Martin
yet, and we are in June.
Ken Martin is the head of the DNC. David Hogg is the vice co-chair. The highest-ranking Democrat is a man by the name of Chuck Schumer. So, sorry, I actually can name those things. You can't name them, even though it's your job, because you're fucking stupid.
June, and I don't see anybody emerging because Harold Ford Jr. refuses to throw his hat in the ring.
He emerges every day at 5 o'clock. Harold, your name was invoked. What would you like to say?
It is good to be back at the table. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll remind Democrats, as we think about this moment in the wilderness, and I tried to share a little bit of it yesterday, this happens after a presidential race. The losing party or the losing group has to figure out what they do differently and better. I'm old enough, mature enough to remember there was a time when I didn't think the Democrats would get back to the White House. In the 80s, you had Reagan, late 80s, you had H.W. Bush to 92, and all of a sudden this governor from Arkansas appeared and captured the imagination of the party. We have to remember he lost Iowa.
Yeah, it was a big problem.
It wasn't until Super Tuesday that basically the biggest group, the most reliable group of voters in the Democratic Party, black voters, gave him victories in big states across the South and really rekindled his campaign. Republicans were out of control in the House of Representatives for 40 years, from 1952 to 1994, excuse me. And it took, 40 years, it took Newt Gingrich and the contract with America to revive Republican relevance and when it comes to that kind of politics. In 2008, people thought after Obama that Republicans couldn't get organized, that Republicans didn't have a bench. Then your father-in-law came along and did something to the political system that upended it all. and we're seeing it now. Middle class and working class, reliable Democratic voters are now voting for a Republican. I would argue President Trump almost supersedes the political party system. He's a Republican, but he's bigger than that in many ways.
That is true.
Politics.
It's almost like he has a cult of personality.
Your father-in-law's ideas, but I got to tell you, he has a way about him where if he thinks it's going to work, he'll stick with it. If he doesn't, he's willing to change and to adapt to what the country wants. We as Democrats have to understand that going back to the old ways won't work. We've talked on this show, tactics, spending money to figure out if we should do podcasts. Let's get a purpose again. Let's get a set of ideas again. You said it well the other day. Let's get a reason.
Honey, I fucking hate you. We have ideas. We got plenty of ideas. We had $15 minimum wage, but that's like long outlived its usefulness. It's now like $25 minimum wage. Medicare for all. We've got climate change policies. We got a host of ideas that Democrats, like, what do the Republicans stand for? What ideas do the tax cuts for the rich and deport immigrants? Demonize trans people. Fucking shit. The problem is propaganda. The problem is that we have fucking a bunch of multimillionaires sitting around the table on Fox News lying to their audience.
Then you can think about the tactics. We are still smart on taxes and the economy and education. We just got to be bolder. And if we're not bold, we're going to be having this silly conversation for a much longer time than I want to.
Laura, he brought up flexibility. And that's always good to have when you're a politician sometimes. Why can't the Democrats be a little more flexible and listen to the voters and say, hey, maybe we're going to pivot back a little to the center?
It's a great question. And maybe Harold...
No, Jesse. The Democrats keep pivoting to the center and they keep losing, you absolute dipshit. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Is Fox literally advocating for the Democrats to go out and adopt popular policy like Medicare for all? Why don't you tell us what exactly the Democrats should do, Jesse Waters?
To opine on that, but look, I think the problem they're having right now is that there are two different groups within the Democrat Party, right? You have the people who want to be a little more reasonable, Harold, and then you have the very far left wing of the party that is very radical, and I don't think most Americans can align with that. And it turns out,
No, I'm not radical. You just have money supporting you.
That Americans like what they see with Donald Trump. I think for the first time in 20 years, 50% of the country thinks we're on the right track, thinks that things are going well in America, and they believe in this president. When you have gaslit people and lied to people like the Democrats did for really the past 10 years with Donald Trump, but now you start to see the result. You see that inflation is going down. You see that we actually had a great result whenever it came to our trade deficit. We almost slashed it in half between the months of March and April. When things are moving in the right direction, Americans feel it. They can feel the restoration of this country. They can feel the strength of this country. They know the Republican Party is the one in charge right now doing it. And so I would love to have a little, counterbalance with some reasonable folks on the left, because I think that's the best thing for this country. We can all talk about things, but they're reasonable and they're not crazy anymore.
Greg, I know you like to really hash over these poll numbers.
Yeah, she's reasonable.
What you're seeing on these polls.
Well, first off, I want to say the tie is amazing and happy Pride Month.
Thank you very much. Happy
I'm
Pride
glad
Month,
he
America.
remembered. I sent it to him a few weeks ago. All right, so here's the problem. This is different. The damage is done. The Democrats always thrived on hoaxes, assuming that by the time the big lie would be exposed, whether it would be Russian collusion or the Fine People hoax, they already got what they needed. The emotional impact of the lie resonated. The truth didn't matter. It's based on that understanding that in working in the press office. The big story always lands on the front page. 2 weeks later, the corrections on page B7. Yeah. That's how it worked. The New York Times and the Washington Post still have their Pulitzers.
That's a funny thing for Fox News to fucking say. God damn. This dude on here talking, like, what, their Pulitzers for Russia reporting? Like, that wasn't a hoax. Like, I love that the right wing has just adopted this thing of calling everything a hoax. Things that you can go back and see. He didn't say very fine people on both sides. It's literally a quote.
for the alleged.
How is that a hoax?
Story, even though we know it's BS. But then something happened, and this is why it's so different. Tapper's book came out, and he deflates this hoax. But it was a hoax that we already knew, but his audience didn't. It was the first time that the correction didn't get buried in the back pages.
Come on, man.
Biden's infirmity is now more well known than Biden himself. His name will never be separated from what happened. So the interesting thing, even more interesting than that,
what happened?
The book didn't sell. That tells you everything. His audience, Jake's audience, was just informed that they were stupid, that they were gullible, that they just got taken. Who wants to buy that book? More important, who wants to be a part of that party that sold you that lie? I don't think there's any way you can walk back from
Fox News had to pay almost $1 billion.
It was played on your side, and the reveal is so spectacular. And the result is resentment, bitterness, disgust over the actions of a party who thought they could pull this off, assuming that the correction would be minor. Instead, it is huge, perhaps the biggest political scandal in history. Finally, in terms of politics in general,
the biggest political scandal in history.
Trump didn't just make the red hats. He made the red pills. People now realize that the Dems have no truth, but just assigned opinions. Think about all of these opinions. You know, rich people bad, poor people good, Joe Biden fine, Trump Hitler, George Floyd a martyr.
Bunch of straw men.
Women. These were assigned opinions. They came from committee. And once
this is you telling a right-wing audience what the opinions of the left are. Like, you're straw manning. You're straw manning people.
These opinions, what's left? There's no structure. There's no unifying principle. There's no leader. That's what you're feeling. Trump realized this already because he was outside of politics, that for the past 40 years, all political opinions were assigned. You could be a Democrat. He was. You could be a Republican. He was. He is. So love him or hate him, he shattered this prism. There's no going back for Republicans and for Trumpers. Now it's the time for the Democrats to realize they've been suckered, that everything that they were told was assigned to them and not real.
Should we give Harold the red pill?
Yes.
We'll just put it in your
Tell him
drink,
it's
Harold.
a Flintstones vitamin.
Here you go. Chew it up.
It'll go down
Knock
well.
it back, Harold.
I like those blue pills you take better.
Click
What?
to subscribe to the Fox News.
God, that show is horrible. Fox News had to pay almost $1 billion in the defamation suit brought by Dominion voting machines. They fired the best election reporter or the best election analyst in the country because he correctly called Arizona for Joe Biden in 2020. All this is just insane. Fox News had to pay almost $1 billion in a defamation suit. Do you know who else is being sued for defamation? Mike Lindell, and he was in court.
I was on crack.
Right.
Defamation case in Denver is about to test the claims that Dominion voting systems based here rigged the 2020 election. First, though, a judge had to find 8 Coloradans who can give My Pillow guy Mike Lindell a fair trial. Our Marshall Zellinger is down at the downtown courthouse.
This is hilarious.
Focused on whether the claims made by Lindell and echoed by President Donald Trump are true. And Marshall, tell us how they vetted jurors for this highly watched trial.
The jurors were asked about their social media habits. They were asked how they get news, and it was kind of depressing to hear. A lot of them said they don't, or they get the headlines from a friend, family member, or a coworker.
Or Facebook.
They were also asked their opinions of Mike Lindell, President Trump, and January 6th. 20 jurors were ultimately excused after being questioned. But the day was spent narrowing the jury down to 8. One juror who was dismissed said they could not be impartial because they found Lindell's political activities offensive. Another dismissed juror said that they had a positive opinion because their whole family has My Pillows. One juror who was picked had this exchange with one of the attorneys. The attorney asked, "Do you consider the January 6ers patriots?" The juror said, "Sure." Well, why? Because they were doing something they stood up for. Explain your First Amendment philosophy, the attorney asked. Freedom of speech, said the juror. Do you think there are limits? And then the juror said, I do think there are limits, anything involving treason. That juror is one of 5 men and 3 women ultimately serving on this jury. Like a moth to a flame, after court, Lindell found our camera, and after...
Like a moth to a flame, Lindell found our camera. Oh, my God.
Look on my face, he told me why this defamation case has no merit.
This 2020 election, I never said anything about Coomer, didn't know Joe Altman or Coomer. So this is why this is the most frivolous case that ever walked the planet Earth.
Joe Altman is the Douglas County conservative activist who said he was on an Antifa phone call where he overheard Coomer claim to have rigged the 2020 election. He's under subpoena now to show up here in federal court tomorrow. It was an interesting morning for Mike Lindell, Kyle. Court started at 8:36 and Lindell was still out here talking to the news media and the cameras that were here. The judge wanted to know if he was going to show up in court. His lawyer said, well, let us text him and get him in here. The judge took a recess, and as she stood up to leave, everybody else stood up, and that's the moment Lindell walked through the back doors, making it seem like he was arriving to court to an ovation.
This is an interesting defense, Marshall. I didn't know the guy I'm accused of defaming. I am not a lawologist, but I was not aware that that is one of the prongs that you have to satisfy for a defamation case, right? For a defamation, right, you have to say something false about somebody. You have to broadcast it. It has to do damage to the person. You have to explicitly name them. I don't think one of the prongs is like, do you know the dude?
Yeah.
Simply ask that question when he came over to the camera. It sounds like that's one of your defenses. Why do you think the defense for defamation is I didn't know him? I heard like a 5 to 8 minute answer that really didn't address that, Kyle, other than he says he didn't talk about Coomer. And when I asked him, did you give a platform to amplify claims about Coomer rigging the 2020 election, he kind of diverted in his answer also.
Marshall Zellinger with 2 weeks of what is either the best or the worst.
Am I wrong about what a Coomer is?
First assignment of all time. Day 1's in the books. Thank you, Marshall.
So that was your update on Mike Lindell. Do you want to hear him speak outside? I think this was yesterday. This was yesterday after court proceedings.
Every one of them was computer manipulated. Now, the one in Arapahoe County, what they just found out is it shows exact computer manipulation. Doesn't show election flip stuff, but it's something that's not, cast vote records, the order the votes come in, the count doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 back to 3. Counts don't go in reverse.
What?
And they don't match up and have patterns. Well, what they found out in Arapahoe County, they added another set of books.
Arapahoe.
This set of books was computer manipulated, and they know that we had found that one, and they put in another set of books. But the problem is,
yeah, I'm not high enough for this shit.
Now you have them side by side, in which everybody can see. I've had Tina Peters, the Mesa County Image, up on my site. I put it up way back when, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Mike Lindell, there's no evidence out there of anything. Absolutely. The evidence is because there's computer.
It's impossible for me to get as high as Mike Lindell, though.
I was on crack. Right. In my case with Dominion, remember Dominion sued me in February and they sued My Pillow in February of 21. When they did that, okay, my evidence is where? It's with the machines. I got to get in the machines and say, hey, what happened? If your bank account, everybody, if you have a problem with your bank account and it doesn't match, you go right to the bank and say, hey, look at this. Where do they look? In the computers.
I'd say they sued whatever.
It was a bank error, it was a computer error, or it may be.
Oh.
But at least you get to find.
I see what you did there.
Well, what Colorado did, and Jenna Griswold, horrible Secretary of State, you all know her about well, she deleted, they called it the trusted build, and deleted the 2020 election. Now, this is federal law. It's 22 months you have to hold this for the public under the Freedom of Information Act. 22 months. In Colorado, it's 25 months.
Leftist audio.
Across the country, not only that, but it was also my evidence. So when I come in, I needed that evidence. When you delete evidence, it's like throwing a gun in a river. That's called spoliation in any court case. They threw away my evidence. You think I wasn't upset about that too? But
I would think Oregon gal, but it's probably prescribed to him.
I was worried about, I can't believe the cover-up, that they're covering up our elections, starting here in Colorado. That was the biggest cover-up. Some clerks made copies, as we all know with the Tina Peters story. God bless her, and she's got to get out. We've got to get her out. The president wants her out, and we will get her out. But they...
Wasn't she the one that was like, I played her court appearance and she talked shit to the judge?
In Michigan, for these lawsuits, I asked for a Dominion machine there. You know what the judge...
Am I remembering that correctly?
It's called sanctions. 2 words I learned, standing and sanctions. They sanctioned me $23,000 just for asking.
Oh my God, Nick Offerman, who makes a couple of appearances later on in the show, would do a great job playing Mike Lindell.
$30 million, any place, my life saving, everything I had around the country for all 50 states. Anybody that needed help to get to this, because we had to, what had happened. And it wasn't just 2020. All of a sudden, I'm finding out 2022, all these elections.
A lot of numbers coming at me.
But they take my 75% chance of winning. The biggest crime this world has ever seen. They're trying to take our country without firing. I got 141. That's what they're doing. And 2/3 chance of winning. And I knew this. And they,
the biggest crime in history. He's going to lose spectacularly, but that's going to be part of the cover-up, right? When he loses in court, he's going to tell his followers, oh, well, that's them out to get me. They rigged it. I didn't get a fair trial, yada, yada, yada. Let me show you a true believer who actually came around. I think we covered this story back when Trump actually issued all the pardons. Now she's coming out, giving interviews.
One of the hundreds of January 6 defendants is now refusing to accept a pardon from President Trump. Pamela Hemphill, who pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge for her role in the attack on the Capitol, has moved to formally block her presidential pardon. On the first day of this,
actually, I think we watched an interview with her
for the more
at the
than
time.
1,500 people charged in that riot. The move effectively ended what was the largest criminal prosecution in the history of the Justice Department. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland joins us now. And Scott, why is Hemphill rejecting this pardon, and how is the Justice Department responding to this?
Yeah, this is a unique protest, isn't it, Nancy? 1 out of 1,500 plus January 6th Capitol riot defendants to say thanks but no thanks for the pardon. Send it back. I don't want it. I don't want the thing on my record, and I don't want the certificate. Pamela Hemphill is different. An Idaho woman who was pleading guilty to a misdemeanor, served a brief prison term and had 3 years probation. But she told CBS News she doesn't want the pardon because she says she wouldn't be able to sleep at night or, in her words, be right with God if she were to accept a pardon for something she says she knows she did. And she says the broader pardons are so dangerous because they send a message that
look at her with her gun. She looks so happy.
Righteous, or it was a peaceful protest, as conspiracy theorists have said. Pamela Hemphill's protest has not necessarily captured the attention of all the other January 6 defendants or the Department of Justice, but you can believe, Nancy, she has gotten some vitriol on social media from Trump supporters about this very public break with the pardon.
Now, I don't think the grandma they always trot out was ever even at the Capitol.
Head of the U.S. Capitol Police just
like that was like a picture of a woman in Texas.
The agency.
His name is Sean Gallagher. He'd been a lieutenant and a leader inside the department. He was somebody who's been part of congressional hearings into the reviews of the failures on January 6th of the Capitol pipe bombs from January 5th, 2021. Gallagher succeeds the retired U.S. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger, who tried to...
I would like to know about those pipe bombs.
...agency after the insurrection, after the leadership on January 6th was pushed out. Gallagher is a known figure internally at the U.S. Capitol Police Department, but note what he's facing here, Nancy. A soaring number of threats against federal lawmakers, 10,000 a year now. They're asking for nearly $1 billion in funding next year because of the magnitude of the threats and the burdens of ensuring members of Congress are safe, not just here in Washington, but all across the country.
And Scott, I also want to ask about the trial now against MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell.
We already covered that. Fuck CBS News. I had a better format for my show. Fuck you. We are in the crime section of the store of the show. So the stories are getting a little graphic here for the next little bit. This one happening in Washington. 3 young kids have been found dead. The father is apparently missing.
A tragic update out of Washington state. The search for 3 missing young sisters has ended after they were found dead, and now their father is wanted for murder. Police say the Decker sisters, 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia, were last seen Friday when they left home for a scheduled visitation with their father, Travis Decker. Yesterday afternoon, the father's abandoned pickup truck was found near a campground about 150 miles east of Seattle. Officers responded to the scene and located the bodies of the 3 girls, but Travis Decker was nowhere to be found.
He's dead, right?
The suspect, who was wanted for 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of kidnapping. Police say Decker is a military veteran with extensive training, but whether he is currently armed is unknown.
Military veteran who was extremely fucked up in the head, probably. Incredibly sad. This is a shooting that happened over the weekend in California. I think a new suspect has been a suspect has been identified, and we have new video. The first moments of a cop arriving on the scene. So once again, content warning.
We are getting a first look at the moments police arrived to a deadly shootout in Baldwin Park.
A community member and a responding officer both killed in that shootout. And KCAL's Jeff DeWin is live in that neighborhood right now where a memorial is growing. Jeff?
Pat and Rutabaga, in fact, that memorial is growing, and throughout the day, we have been seeing flowers delivered here time and time again. But I want to draw your attention to the banner that was put up about an hour ago. It honors the life of fallen officer Samuel Riveros. And tonight, we have a new look at the gunfight.
Yes, let's all salute the good cop.
Security video shows the gun battle as a Baldwin Park police officer pulled up to the 4200 block of Philhurst Avenue. He gets out of his car, then finds cover as dozens of rounds ring out. Juan Rubalcaba lives across the street from the suspect, 22-year-old Eduardo Medina Berriman.
I saw the boy Eduardo shooting, so I called her mom.
Rubalcaba also called the suspect's grandmother, telling her to lock her doors. You can see this pane of glass at their home has been damaged.
Your son Eduardo is shooting with a rifle.
The gunfight injured officer Anthony Pimentel, but his colleague officer Samuel Riveros died. Outside the Baldwin Park police station, Riveros is being honored.
Wait a minute. They did not say that the suspect shot the cop, just that the cop died. I noticed things like this. How did the cop die? He didn't get shot by the suspect, did he? Did he shoot himself? Did he shoot him? Did he get shot by his buddy?
Eduardo shooting, so I called her mom.
Rubalcaba also called the suspect's grandmother, telling her to lock her doors. You can see this pane of glass at their home has been damaged.
Your son Eduardo is shooting with a rifle.
The gunfight injured officer Anthony Pimentel, but his colleague officer Samuel Riveros died. Outside the Baldwin Park police station, Riveros is being honored at a growing...
See, notice they said that the one cop was injured in the gunfight. They just said that the other one died.
...memorial beneath flags at half-staff. This camera also captured Tamara Ayala's mom walking into the front yard Saturday evening, discovering the body of a man police say was shot and killed by Medina Berriman.
I zoomed in more because I seen something on that top right corner, and it was a body on the floor, and I told my mom, get inside.
Ayala
Put the bodies at the floor.
In minutes, police swooped in.
I heard 15 to 20 shots. We barricaded ourselves into the den because we were so frightened and scared.
Outside Ayala's home is a growing memorial for the man who was shot and killed here. His family did not want to speak on camera as detectives are working to figure out why he was targeted. And they aren't saying if Medina Berriman has had troubles with the law.
He had a high temper, you know, like he didn't have.
So wait a minute, did they apprehend him?
You tell him for something. I was glad that he didn't shoot at me, but I never have any problem.
And since Saturday evening, nearly a dozen neighboring agencies have sent their officers here to cover the shifts for this department as they mourn. The help is expected to last until Thursday morning. We're live in Baldwin Park. Jeff Nguyen, KCAL News.
Because it was just the cop and the other person that died, right? Did the... Sorry, I just saw that I have an update for a later story that we're doing here, so let me switch out. Where are we going from here? Murder trial. You want to check in on murder trial? Let the boobies hit the floor. Let the boobies hit the floor. Let the... Oh. My girl up in Boston, Karen Reed, calling for a mistrial. She didn't kill no cop.
Motion for a mistrial in the Karen Reed case. Delayed testimony today before things got back on track. NBC 10's Katie Benoit is live with the latest from Dedham. Katie?
Mistrial, mistrial, mistrial.
Court. She expected the judge's decision. Also today, a Dighton police officer testified about what Karen Reed's taillight looked like the morning John O'Keefe was found.
Karen Reed will be back in court tomorrow after this played out without the jury present.
The defense moves strongly, vigorously for a mistrial with prejudice.
Reed's defense team asked the prosecution to ask Dr. Marie Russell about
when there's a saying in the law community, when you have the law on your side, you pound the law. When you have the facts on your side, on your side, you pound the facts. When the law and the facts aren't on your side, you pound the table. And that's exactly what he was doing, just that indignation right there.
Karen Reed will be back in court tomorrow after this played.
What a piece of shit.
The defense moves strongly, vigorously for a mistrial with prejudice.
Reed's defense team didn't want the prosecution to ask Dr. Marie Russell about the absence of dog DNA found on John O'Keefe's clothing. They claim a dog attack could have played a role in O'Keefe's death and argued the evidence in question hadn't been brought up before this.
Is not only proper and permissible, it's essential, and the Commonwealth is entitled.
Oh, yeah, they did. Oh, he had no reason to be as indignant as what. Like, that kind of indignation, that's the kind of shit that, like, Young Thug's lawyer should have been pulling. Young Thug's lawyer was nice about it and got fucking thrown in the slammer for contempt. And he had an actual fucking case. Or actual fucking claim.
For theories and facades that the defense creates.
Brennan was allowed to continue after the motion was denied. Russell stuck to her story. She claims O'Keefe's arm injuries were caused by a dog.
When you first gave your opinion, you didn't even know about that DNA testing, did you?
Not initially, correct. A Dighton police officer was next on the stand. He was there when Reed's SUV was towed from her parents' house. He testified there was less damage to the car at that time.
Is this the condition
of the right rear taillight when you showed up at the Reed household at around 3:15 in the afternoon on January 29th, 2022?
Absolutely not.
What's different about this photo, sir?
That taillight is completely smashed out.
On cross-examination, prosecutors played another video from the morning O'Keefe died.
Is that consistent with the damage that you saw when you looked at that Lexus in Dighton hours later?
Consistent.
And a friend who was with O'Keefe hours before he died is expected to testify tomorrow. A plow driver is also expected to testify. Live in Dedham, Katie.
A plow driver. Man, they did a lot of plowing. Or maybe watched other people plow while they applied baby oil to themselves. I still don't understand what the fuck. Did he fuck? Or did he just watch people fuck? In pools of baby oil. I don't know what the fuck is going on with Diddy.
On the map now to New York City, where it is the 4th week of the Sean Combs sex trafficking trial. The music mogul has pleaded not guilty to federal charges against him. Prosecutors continue to line up witnesses who say they were the victims of Combs' alleged abuse. In fact, on Monday, jurors heard testimony from someone called Mia, a former employee of Combs, who testified he physically and emotionally abused her and sexually assaulted her. She also faced a tough cross-examination from the defense. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman has been there for every day and every minute of that trial, just stepped out of the courtroom for our viewers. Somebody said in my ear, Katrina's coming across the street, let's put her on. She's talking about what happened in court today. Another day.
Reed,
I try.
Actually,
thank you, Byronic.
Morning, and this was before we even had a witness on the stand. It came out that one of the streamers here, it appears, revealed the true identity of Mia. That's the alleged victim who was on the stand for a number of days. She's a key witness in this case, a former employee of Combs who says that she's been sexually, physically, and psychologically abused by him, and she didn't want her real identity revealed. That's why she used a pseudonym to protect it. While this was coming out in court, there was then an outburst. A woman who's actually been making a bit of commotion at the court in general. Something happened, there was an altercation, and she ended up getting dragged out of the courtroom by 3 officers. She dared them to take out their guns, and she also was shouting at Sean Combs, telling him that people are out there talking about him. So a lot of drama in the courtroom today, besides the testimony on the stand.
Wow.
But we then heard from Eddie Garcia. Now, this is someone, Reed, who was a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel. That is where security footage captured Sean Combs knocking Cassie Ventura, his girlfriend at the time, to the ground, kicking her, dragging her. It's a scene the jury has seen a few times, but the story that we got from Garcia is significant because it is a potential allegation of bribery. And this is an underlying crime for the racketeering conspiracy charge, Reed, that there is a pattern of criminal activity that was being conducted by Combs and his employees, and they also have to prove that there are 2 underlying crimes there that were part of this. Bribery is one of them. What Eddie Garcia said happened is that Combs' assistant at the time, Christina Coram, reached out to him, and she wanted to know what was on this tape. They wanted to get a hold of it. She said that Combs had been intoxicated. He didn't remember what had happened.
Is it just me? Is he an ugly man?
They were dealing with. Garcia said that at the time he told her, off the record, it's bad, but he was 24.
He's a very ugly man.
Security guard. He said that he didn't have any way to get this footage to secure it for them. But the story we ended up hearing is that he reached out to a supervisor of his who decided to get that footage for Sean Combs. And also during all this, Combs was getting on the phone with Garcia and calling him Eddie, my angel, telling him that he knew that he could help. Ultimately, they
objectively,
that footage.
Objectively not a good-looking man, objectively good evening.
$100,000 for that. And Garcia recounted how he went to Combs' apartment. One of the bodyguards was there, and so was Christina Coram, his assistant, as Combs counted the money, gave Garcia some tea because Garcia said he was so nervous that his voice was cracking, and he told them he wasn't feeling well. So we're also seeing how there were other employees who were part of this attempt to cover up
Is that P. Diddy playing behind her?
Ventura at that hotel room.
Wow. Katrina Kaufman, thank you so much. We know you've got to get back in there. We appreciate you stepping out to give us an update.
That was updates on the big trials going on right now. You like that transition before, Byronic? Going from one sex trafficker to another sex trafficker. The Tate brothers have been charged in the UK.
The British government has charged Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan with rape and human trafficking, among other charges. The BBC reports the Crown Prosecution Service filed the charges after receiving new evidence against the far-right influencer brothers from a regional police station. Andrew Tate faces 10 charges connected to 3 alleged victims, while Tristan faces 11 charges connected to 1 alleged victim, on allegations dating back between 2012 and 2015, according to reports. The brothers have previously rejected the UK allegations, saying they are, quote, very innocent men. Despite also facing similar charges in their country of residence, Romania, the British-American brothers were allowed to return to the United States in February.
They're very innocent men, and I am totally super straight.
At the time, Andrew said of the charges against them,
"We live in a democratic society where it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things.
What does democracy have to do with that?
We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever."
Reports say they have since returned to Romania, where they face charges of sex with a minor and trafficking. They both deny the allegations. According to the BBC, those charges will be handled after the criminal cases are concluded in Romania. For Inside Edition,
they're very innocent. They totally didn't do the thing that they are on camera bragging about doing. They don't have a whole business built around doing the exact thing they're accused of doing. This dude carried out some murders inside a prison in Arizona. He says we should thank him for his service.
Sonar is responsible for one of the longest prison standoffs in U.S. history, holding guards hostage in a Lewis prison tower for more than 2 weeks, one claiming she was raped. Now, Ricky Wassenaar admits he is a killer, says he had plans to kill more, and claims it was all done for a good reason.
But what an amazing guy. He had a standoff with the cops. Like, I didn't even know about that when I started this story. Fucking A.
Sonar is responsible for one of the longest prison standoffs in U.S. history, holding guards hostage in a Lewis prison tower for more than 2 weeks, one claiming she was raped. Now, Ricky Wassenaar admits he is a killer, says he had plans to kill more, and claims it was all done for a good reason.
This is a free call from
I don't like that he raped somebody, possibly.
Arizona State Prison Complex. I'm at SMU 2.
A call from the man known most for his infamous 2004 prison standoff. But recently, Ricky Wassenaar made national headlines again after killing 3 inmates in early April at a Tucson prison complex.
Well, I felt justified.
Do you wish you killed more?
Of course. Here's the thing is, Brianna, I jumped the gun.
Wassenaar says there is a reason he did it. The victims, Saul Alvarez, Thorne Harnage, and Donald Lashley, all had something in common.
They were child molesters. The Alvarez had raped and kidnapped. First, he come to this country illegally, and then he kidnapped and raped.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Is this fucking this inmate that had the standoff with the cops and maybe raped somebody? He's a Trump supporter, isn't he? Checks out. Totally checks out.
Murdered a 15-year-old little girl. So, I did society a favor by killing that maggot. And the other two, Harnage and Lashley, were both sexual child predators that molested several victims.
Alvarez was in prison for first-degree murder, Harnage and Lashley in prison for child sex crimes. Wassenaar said his killing spree was possible because he took advantage of an opportunity when his targets would have no way to escape him.
The way the prison is situated, when they let out for breakfast or meal times, they lock us in what they call a chute. It's a cage outside the chow hall. And once we're locked in, there's nowhere to run to. We're all in there. Once I seen one of my main targets, I jumped the gun and I started. If I would have waited until that chute was locked, until that cage was locked, and we were all in there locked in, I would have killed at least 7. But my goal was at least 7. But I was hoping for a baker's dozen. I had
you wanted 13.
All child molesters.
One of the many things I learned about Wassenaar's mindset during our call, his disdain for child molesters, as if their crimes somehow validated his murders. In November 2024, Wassenaar says he was assigned a cellmate, Joseph DeSisto, who was also in prison for child molestation and abuse. Wassenaar says he brought concerns to prison staff because he knew immediately this wouldn't end well.
I can't have a cellie. I'm prepared for that. I've been in my own cell for the last 21 years.
DeSisto was found dead in the cell. Wassenaar claims he killed him as a practice for more and described in detail how he did it.
And I put suntan lotion on his neck and I dripped sweat onto his face as I was killing him, as I was the final strangulation. And nothing happened. They put me back in a cell.
DeSisto was
Why suntan lotion?
The county medical examiner ruled the cause of death was due to natural causes and underlying conditions, not a killing.
When I got back out of the yard, the inmates couldn't believe it because they all know that I killed that dude. It's going to reoccur. It's going to recur when they put somebody else in my cell. So I've warned them at least a month.
Wassenaar told me he believed there was a chance he would be resentenced for his role in the Lewis prison standoff and have potential freedom. But when that didn't happen, this idea was born. Obviously, there is nobody who justifies child molestation. But all of those people were already sentenced for their crimes. Why did you feel it was on you to kill them?
I love that.
He needed something to do.
That's beautiful. Because a lot of people don't ask that. I asked God, what's plan B? And that's when plan B came to me. I'm to kill these child molesters. And the reason why is, one, I give closure to their victims' rate. All of their victims now have closure. The monster that molested them is no longer alive to reoffend. There's potential child molesters out there in that world will see that I'm in here slaughtering those maggots, and hopefully I can prevent some child molester somewhere from offending.
But other people would also say you can't just kill people.
I can. Why can't I?
Well, that's against the law too.
Why can't I? No, it's not. It shouldn't be. I mean, yeah, it's against your law. Inside the razor wire, your rules, your society rules do not apply to us.
Does that make you a monster?
Of course not. I mean, I don't consider myself. Yeah, okay. If you're a child molester, if you hurt children, you abuse children, I'm their monster. I'm their monster.
As the investigation continues to unfold as to the events that happened in April, was this a failure or complete lack of competency on the part of the new Department of Corrections director? Our chief investigative reporter Morgan Lowe will have that report coming up next hour. Reporting in the newsroom, Brianna Whitney for Arizona's Family.
Well, thank you, Brianna Whitney. Great reporting. I guess the dude knows he's a psychopath and he's gonna kill somebody. At least he's got a code. He's being all Dexter about it, I guess. That's all you can ask of him. Let's keep on the topic of jails. I was off for over a week. Before I headed out for my birthday / tech hiatus, we were covering the story of 10 inmates who escaped from a jail in New Orleans. Now, almost all of them have been caught. I think 2 are still on the loose. One of them posted to social media today.
So we've been following this manhunt for the New Orleans jailbreakers, but now it appears to have taken an unexpected turn. Last night there was this video that started circulating on social media. It appears to be Antoine Massey, one of the 2 active fugitives still at large, saying, among other things, he didn't break out of jail, he was let out of jail. Come on now. News Nation's Alex Caparelli. Anthony Ganji joins us as well. 20-year veteran in the corrections industry. He's a host, actually, of Tear Talk, which is a podcast dedicated to the corrections industry. Anthony in a moment, but Alex, you first. All right, so what's, if this is Antoine, which I think people think it is, right? What's he saying?
Can we watch?
We do have to include that caveat because News Nation hasn't been able to independently confirm that that is Antoine Massey, although most certainly it seems as if it is, it looks like it is, and we've had further indications that it is. For example, we just learned this afternoon that authorities have already found out which house it was, which kitchen that is, that he's seen filming that video, because we know that a search warrant has been conducted there. They looked for Massey inside of there, couldn't find him. So whenever this video was shot, he's already long gone from now. But as far as the content from what's inside that video, Massey really just making the case that he feels as if he's wrongly in jail. First and foremost, he says the charges that have been levied against him, like domestic abuse, strangulation, kidnapping, that those have all been dropped. He showed a paper which he claimed was an affidavit that the DA has actually dropped those charges. And then he also just asked for help. He named some rappers, Lil Wayne, Meek Mill, asking them to help him out. He asked the Kardashians to help him out. And then he asked President Donald Trump, the guy who probably could get it done if he pays attention, listens, and wants to. He could offer a pardon, but who knows? Of course, we don't think that will go all the way up to the White House. You never know, but that's at least part of the video of what he's saying.
All right. Speaking of help, that's a good word, Alex. Anthony, did he help himself with this? Probably not, right? I mean, you see the guy wearing a watch. He's wearing different clothes, right? There's got to be some sort of a digital trail. What are people going to be able to pick up that are investigating and looking for him from this video?
Well, I think one thing right off the bat is going to be social media. I mean, obviously.
Apparently, they don't want to play it. It's not very good quality, it seems. So that might be why they're hesitant to play it.
I'm one of the ones that was let out of the GC. What I want to talk about today is far as why I was in Orleans Parish Jail. I was in custody for almost 8 months. All right, 6 months, something like that. I was in there for theft of a motor vehicle and domestic abuse involving strangulation. That's what I was in Orleans Parish for.
Are those snow boots?
But before I was in Orleans Parish, I was in a jail called St. Tammany Detention Center. All right, St. Tammany Jail here in St. Tammany Parish. There's 2 different parishes, Orleans and St. Tammany. Okay. Today, what I want to talk about is that I was on 2nd-degree kidnapping, 2nd-degree rape, domestic abuse, battery involving strangulation, domestic abuse, battery, violation of protected order, right? On this woman right here, her name is Diamond White. That's her name. This is a district attorney drop form right here. And she's not a child, she's an adult, a full adult. I was dating this woman. This is a legalized affidavit saying all allegations against me is false. All allegations against me is false. I was nowhere around her or none of that during the timing of the date, which was November the 10th of 2024. Okay, so I was in St. Tammany, right, and I was on a regular domestic charge, right. So they put a parole hold on me because I was on a domestic charge. So with that being said, is that once that occurred, and the charges was refused or whatever, they shipped me to Orleans Parish where I had more open charges. It was the theft of a motor vehicle and the domestic abuse, battery involving strangulation. So once I got at Orleans Parish Jail, all right, I have from the district attorney's office, this woman who they say that I initially raped in another parish in Orleans Parish. It's the same woman here. It's not different females. It's the same grown woman, not a child, a grown woman. Okay, she did the same thing in Orleans Parish, right? Correct. I'm about to show you how the system is corrupted. Okay, she did this, right? Saying all allegations against me is false, and she even saying it. You know, she let them know the truth that I never did this to her.
But brother, if you were wanted for
She got
theft of a vehicle,
dealing with another woman. That's why she did what she did to me. You know what I'm saying? Another thing too, once I got into Orleans Parish, I was there for like a month or something like that. Okay, a lot went on as that time progressed. Okay, if you was an innocent person and you know the judges and DA know that this person is saying that all the charges that you're on that you did not do, why was you still in jail? Louisiana,
you were charged with the theft of a vehicle.
In the world for putting black people away.
I mean, that's true, but you were also charged with theft of a vehicle. That's why they sent you over there. You seem to have a fundamental misunderstanding, but he thinks that because the charge that he was originally in prison for was thrown out, that they didn't have a right to send him to the other one, if I understand what he's saying.
When you put yourself on social media, the alerts go up. So when we have an escape, the first thing.
It's just going to be me and you, Alex. If Anthony
he froze
in time, I was giving him a second, but yeah, Alex, I'll wait while we wait for Anthony to unfreeze. The sheriff, we were talking earlier about how he was let out of jail. The sheriff did speak earlier about the whole thing as well. What did she say?
Well, interestingly, this was before
not high enough for this shit.
The house had been searched, but their initial statement was, if this is Antoine Massey, going back to the idea that we don't officially know that, if this is Antoine Massey, then the sheriff was strongly encouraging himself to turn himself in. Come on in. You know, obviously we're looking for you. Massey is one of 2 inmates out of that original 10 that are still on the run.
Do you believe that's him?
Saying, look, if you don't want more charges levied against you, then the best thing to do now is to just drop your cell phone and bring yourself into your local law enforcement.
I mean, at this point, what are you going to do?
The sheriff did appear in a press
conference. Charge him with
earlier
escape
today,
+2
or so, Connell. We expected maybe the sheriff to address this video and say what's the update on trying to capture these 2 convicts that are still on the loose, but instead that press conference was more about the overall infrastructure of that jail. It certainly sounds as if there's some
best thing to do would be to go to Mexico.
Problems there, potentially what
and Louisiana that's not
breaking out. We know that they escaped from behind a toilet. Turns out that there's more than 16 leaks all throughout.
It's not an outlandish proposition.
Old, and you shouldn't encounter these problems until the jail is around 30 years old.
Yeah, the thing escape from behind a toilet. It was that was the thing I was kind of, you know, it's not funny, I guess, but just,
it is funny.
They let me out of jail. I was like, what, did you think that hole behind the toilet was like a new door they'd installed or something? But, you know, covered these. We lost Anthony was going to analyze it, but, you know, you're as good as.
Well, you're leaving out the part that they were assisted by like 3 people that worked at the facility. Does he not know that? I know that because I've been covering this story. Maybe the anchor does not know that they had help on the inside. So the idea that he was let out of the jail, not a outlandish idea.
But you cover these things all the time. So if you think about it, we'll talk a little bit more about what Anthony started to speak about. He did leave a trail, right? I'm sure that's what experts will be telling you, that they're going to pick up on as much as they can from this video.
No, and I've spoken to law enforcement sources. I've covered criminal trials all across the country as part of my career, and I know that there is a massive digital footprint you leave behind as a criminal the moment you pick up a cell phone or you type something into your Google search bar. Posting a video is no different, and so we know law enforcement were quick on the trail, trying to find that IP address, figure out where that house was that he posted it from, and these are all little breadcrumbs or leads that police officers, investigators, the U.S. Marshals will use to try to find him.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now.
Oh, fucking fuck. I got Cuomo'd. That wasn't good at all. That scared the shit out of me. You'd think he wouldn't be hard to spot, Lenny. But it is New Orleans. You got people with face tattoos. All over New Orleans. It's a weird place. A sheriff in St. Louis pled the fifth repeatedly when asked questions about a mysterious death at a jail.
There is a deepening mystery into a Pike County, Missouri death, an alleged cover-up by law enforcement, which we've been covering for months on Fox 2.
This has now taken a dramatic turn with the sheriff at the center of the controversy, refusing to answer questions under oath. Fox Files investigator Chris Hayes reveals the bombshell video deposition tonight.
Chris Hayes.
In Pike County, Missouri, family of Nathaniel Mueller continues searching for answers in Nathan's mysterious disappearance and death. The Bowling Green police chief has alleged a cover-up by the sheriff's office.
Let me see your tattoos, sir.
That the Pike County Sheriff's Office knew of the location of Mueller's body for a month prior to the discovery of his remains.
Mueller disappeared this past December and was reportedly found dead in a pond February 28th.
Anything evolving around Nathaniel, we're not going to stop.
That's Nathaniel's godmother, Ashley Ashby, who hoped we would finally get answers in this deposition of Pike County Sheriff Stephen Cordy.
I'll go with the fifth on this one.
Instead, the sheriff repeatedly declined to answer.
I want to take the fifth on this one also.
Even basic questions posed by trial attorney Mark Pedroli.
Where was Nathaniel Mueller's body found?
He took the fifth.
Was Nathaniel Mueller murdered, to your knowledge?
Here, he looked to the side at his attorney, then answered, as you will predict by now.
I'll go with the fifth on this one.
I'm very disturbed.
Ashley Ashby is hearing about this for the first time, only available now by phone as she's out of town.
We definitely don't understand why it's taken so long to get answers.
Because the cops are...
Highway Patrol is investigating.
The murders.
Sheriff's Major, who's accused in the cover-up, remains on duty. One of the few questions Sheriff Cordy did answer.
Is he under investigation by you?
No.
Good evening. Bowling Green's police chief outed that major in a March news conference with his attorney Chris Lozano at his side.
I know that there are going to be repercussions. We are ready for them.
Lozano also responded to this latest development, saying, quote, "The Fifth Amendment is a cornerstone of the judicial system, but when a non-defendant elected official takes the fifth, it should give us all pause." End quote. I also followed up with the sheriff himself.
Yeah, not even charged.
Responsible to make any comments, even in a deposition, about a case being investigated by Highway Patrol. For the Fox Files, I'm Chris Hayes.
There is always more work for our Fox.
There's always more work for our Fox investigators. There's always police corruption going on. I think we got some wild footage from a chase and shooting that took place. This happened in California yesterday. Oh, this is back in...
Play out on camera as
This is back in March.
Tense moments play out on camera as officers open fire on a man following a pursuit and standoff. The March incident beginning hours earlier when Chino police got a call about a woman being assaulted.
She's bleeding pretty bad from her head.
Do you know how she got hurt?
Wait, did we watch this chase?
I came outside on my lunch break and some guy was beating on her.
Surveillance video shows a man police say is 47-year-old Jose Martinez confronting the victim and trying to force her into his vehicle. He fails and then takes off. Police later locate the vehicle and try to stop it, but that's when Martinez starts ramming the police cruisers.
David 10, 1033, suspects ramming police cars. 1033, code 3 back, Foothill.
Martinez escapes and begins leading police on a dangerous pursuit.
I think we did watch this.
On both freeways and surface streets, at times traveling at more than 100 miles an hour. Officers eventually executing a pit maneuver in Montclair. That's when an hour-long standoff began. It ended when he quickly got out of the vehicle in what appeared to be a shooting stance. Officers opened fire and later took Martinez to the hospital in critical condition. He's recovering from his wounds and is due in court next month.
Bullshit. Recovering from his wounds. Thanks, Mark Brown. Oh, here's one for you. I've done fungus a few different times over the last couple of months, but this Chinese couple apparently smuggled in some dangerous fungus.
It is a busy news day. Our other top story right now, a wild one. We've got live pictures from Metro Airport tonight. That's where the feds say 2 Chinese researchers actually smuggled a dangerous biological pathogen into the United States.
Yeah, pretty scary stuff. One of them worked as a scholar at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Now, this pathogen in question is known as a potent weapon for agricultural terrorism. Let's go live to Victor Williams with the latest to break these serious charges and a lot of agencies involved in this, Victor.
Yes, hey there, Ty. We know that the FBI as well as the Border Patrol, they've all gotten involved in this investigation. But one of the defendants is now going to have to go in front of a federal judge on a long list of charges.
A couple from China is now in hot water after allegedly smuggling the fungus Fusarium graminearum into the U.S. by way of the Detroit Metro Airport. Apparently, the couple planned to work on the biological pathogen at a laboratory at the University of Michigan. But the thing is, the fungus is known to be extremely dangerous. It's said to be responsible for billions of dollars worth of damage to agriculture like rice, maize, wheat, and barley. The fungus can also cause major health complications like vomiting, liver damage, and reproductive defects in both humans and animals. Investigators are calling it a biological threat that should have never happened in the first place. The couple, ages 33 and 34, now being charged with conspiracy, smuggling goods into the U.S., false statements, and visa fraud.
And the next part is trying to figure out if anyone came into contact with that fungus while it was being transported. In the meantime, we're live downtown. Victor Williams, Local 4.
It's definitely one we'll continue to follow. Victor, thank you for that update.
Spores. If you are going to order DoorDash or Uber Eats, I don't recommend you do it. I think they're overpriced. If you have a car, go fucking pick your food up. 1, it'll be fresher. 2, it'll cost you less. 3, you won't put yourself in danger. But if you are going to use a DoorDash or an Uber Eats service, fucking tip. And tip well. Tip your driver well. Or this shit might happen to you.
First tonight, we're hearing from that Vancouver man who says he had to fight to protect his family when a now former DoorDash driver brought a gun to his home to confront him. He says all over a tip. Alma McCarty's here with the details. Alma, sounds like a pretty wild encounter.
Definitely a wild encounter, David. Part of this struggle was actually caught on camera, as you can see here, right outside of the front door. The homeowner tells me it really caught him by surprise how a situation like this over a tip could escalate.
A quiet morning in Vancouver interrupted.
This loud bang on the door, real loud, startled my daughter, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you know, who the heck's pounding on the door?"
Anthony Volino explains it was the DoorDash delivery driver who'd come by the house the night before when his daughter ordered groceries.
It was a considerable amount. It was about $100 worth of food. The food was delivered to her. Apparently, she had to give a tip through the online system, which was deducted.
But the driver had apparently wanted a cash tip. And for a second, Volino thought about giving him one.
When he again said, "I want my tip," that's when I said, "Well," leaned in like I didn't hear him.
Well, fuck this dude.
And that's when I put my hand up like a stop sign and I said, "Hey, hey, hey." And I said, "You need to leave now."
A scuffle ensued, and that's when Volino realized the man at their door had a gun in his waistband.
When I felt the steel, my heart just sank. My heart just sank. I was like, oh God.
He's just some old dude.
Right here, and he tripped up against my wife's car. And as he was on the ground, I came about right here, and I leaned over and I cleared the handgun.
Vancouver police arrived soon after, identifying the suspect as Robert Delahant and arresting him. The spokesperson for DoorDash told KGW that the company has a zero-tolerance policy for harassment.
Yeah, seriously, Flash.
What happened was unacceptable, and the dasher involved was immediately deactivated.
And my kids were in there. They were at the my grandkids were at the door. My daughter's outside screaming. If he would have drew that gun and missed me and shot one of my kids, it would have been devastating.
The suspect faces felony harassment.
Yeah, what do you, like, that dude was trained. Did you guys see that shit? I mean, Flash definitely did. Watch it again.
I felt the steel, my heart.
Fucking disarmed him, cleared the chamber. You think, is he ex-military?
Just sank. My heart just sank. I was like, oh God, help me now. He tripped right here and he tripped up against my wife's car. And as he was on the ground, I came about right here and I leaned over and I cleared the handgun.
Vancouver police arrived soon after, identifying the suspect as Robert Delahant and arresting him. A spokesperson for DoorDash told KGW that the company has a zero-tolerance policy for harassment of any kind. What happened was unacceptable, and the Dasher involved was immediately deactivated.
And my kids were in there. They were at my grandkids.
I don't know. Look at that shirt.
Daughter's outside screaming.
But yeah, you're right. It could just be a gun enthusiast.
Missed me and shot one of my kids. It would have been devastating.
The suspect faces felony harassment, DUI, and assault charges.
I mean, that was slick.
Valino was injured in this incident. David, back to you.
Yeah, what a story. Thanks so much.
What a badass. I mean, that DoorDash driver picked the wrong house to go back and fuck with somebody, didn't they? Damn. We're going to Kansas City. Where for the second time in 3 months. Oh, good night, Lenny. Have a safe trip back, my friend. This happened in Kansas City. This is the Excelsior Springs Veterans Hall. For the second time in 3 months, a car has crashed into the roof.
Check your screen out now. Caught on camera, a car flies through the air, slamming onto the roof of an Excelsior Springs building. Amazingly, it's not the first time. In fact, just over 3 months ago, another car crashed into the roof of the Clay Ray Veterans Building in Excelsior. I'm John Holt.
I'm Bria Love. Veterans Association leaders there shocked, having just repaired the roof. Fox 4's Lexi French, she's live outside of the hall in
You know, they say things happen in threes.
This is going to have a major impact on the Veterans Association.
Bria, it absolutely will. Now, the outside of the building on the roof, there is extensive damage, but right now we're going to give you a look inside. As you can see, some of the damage here on the ceiling of the building. They were just about finished with repairs from that crash back in February and were set to celebrate and have a reopening, and now they're back to square one.
Oh my God.
2 years from now, it'll be 100 years that we've been here. It's the first time we've had one car crash into the roof, let alone two of them.
This surveillance footage shows the moment the car crashed into the roof of the Clay Ray Veterans Association building. A man was driving on Linwood Avenue when his car launched off the cliff, tumbled through the trees, and then flipped right onto the roof.
Instead of following the curve of 10 Highway, the road that they come off of is Linwood Avenue, and they drive straight down Linwood Avenue, and then there's this cliff face that's on the backside of St. Louis Avenue that's hidden by this tree line, and essentially they launch off of the cliff face and they end up in the roof here.
The Veterans Association has not been able to use their building or host revenue-generating events since the first car crashed into the building in February.
It's quite shocking for it to happen again, but
stupid Trump hat.
Through all this money and everything to fix the other part, and now it's the same thing, just over in the bar area instead of in the kitchen.
They were only 2 weeks away from reopening.
It's just heartbreaking, especially when it comes to the community. I mean, it's an American Legion. We help veterans any way we can, and it's put a big damper on things.
Excelsior Springs police are still looking into what caused the crash Wednesday morning, but say it's obvious that speed was involved.
As long as he didn't have any medical condition, we are going to charge him with something. That could be as minor as careless driving, or, you know, all the way up to if he was determined to be impaired, he could face a charge for that. But we just don't know at this point.
There was nobody inside the building at the time of the crash, and the driver was able to walk himself to the ambulance and was then
Yeah, there's a video gambling machine right behind her.
condition from police at this time. In Excelsior,
Exactly right, Flash.
Fox 4 working for you.
Fox 4 working for you. No, you're not. Not for me, at least. I'm interested to see which side the chat is going to take. Is it okay to smack the shit out of a kid if the kid mocks you and calls you fat and Miss Piggy?
Chaos on board a Memorial Day flight out of Sanford.
Orlando Sanford Airport police arresting this woman, Christy Crampton, who they say repeatedly hit a child on a plane. She's charged with felony child abuse. Channel 9's Ashlyn Webb explains what witnesses.
Old enough to know who Miss Piggy is. So I think old enough to get slapped the shit out of.
Say led up to the woman being cuffed.
Airport police say they arrested her at the gate after the pilot requested for law enforcement. This arrest report says it all started with the child calling the woman fat and Miss Piggy. Christy Lee Crampton was set to be back home from her family's Disney World vacation. Instead, she made her first appearance in front of a Seminole County judge Tuesday, charged with felony child.
I mean, I see the resemblance, but she doesn't have the piggy nose.
Abuse. Allegiant Flight 2885 to Hagerstown, Maryland was set to take off from Orlando Sanford International Airport just before 2 p.m. Monday. But according to this arrest report, Crampton and witnesses on the plane tell police the child called Crampton fat and Miss Piggy, telling her she couldn't fit in the airplane seat. That's when witnesses say Crampton began hitting the child with her fist and then hit him on the head with a water bottle.
Yeah.
The report says she slammed the child's head into the airplane window. The child used his arms to cover his head. Airport police haven't said how old the child is, but Crampton told police the child was very rude and disrespectful during their trip to Disney, and that after the child called her fat, she took his phone away. She claims he then pushed her arm off the armrest twice, and that's when she began smacking him. But police and witnesses say she went beyond typical disciplinary actions. One witness saying the woman was not correcting the child, she was abusing him. The report says the FBI was notified because it happened inside an airport. A Seminole County judge granted the woman a $10,000 bond. Reporting in Sanford, Ashlyn Webb, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Well, to be fair, Julie, the kid was running his fucking mouth. That's what we're trying to determine if he deserved it or not. Were they related? I don't think they were they? Media Winch. The next story we're going to cover is really, really, really fucking sad. I hit the content warning for it. I didn't want to talk about it last night. I knew about it like yesterday morning. Because there's a lot to unpack here. And it sucks that it's happened with the timing that it's happened. 2-3 days ago, over the weekend, Friday, I can't remember exactly when it was, they dropped the new opening for the King of the Hill revival. It is even better than a trailer because there's a lot of stuff in the opening. Now, I had known the actor that played John Redcorn in the original series. He's the second actor to play him. The first actor passed away. The second actor to play John Redcorn is who we're talking about. He's also an actor on Parks and Rec. I was familiar with him from Facebook, amazingly enough, because we were both in several of the same groups. I knew that he wasn't in the reboot, and he hadn't been taking it well. And he apparently was acting really erratic last week. And on top of this, was receiving very homophobic harassment, terrorism from a neighbor. So that's where the story picks up here.
Of actor Jonathan Joss.
We just got a hold of police reports that detail what officers were investigating before the actor was shot and killed in his Southside neighborhood. Joss was best known as the voice of John Redcorn in the long-running Fox animated series King of the Hill.
He also made appearances as Ken Hotate on the NBC show Parks and Rec, those two popular roles defining his professional life in Hollywood.
And we've been working to find out more about his life here in San Antonio along Dorsey Street on the south side. News 4 got a hold of several police reports today, painting a picture of some very erratic and dangerous behavior.
The News 4 I-Team's Jordan Elder is live at the site of the shooting to start our team coverage. Jordan, tell us what those reports are saying.
Well, Mandy and Jonathan, these reports show police were heavily involved in this neighborhood and with Jonathan Joss. Some of these reports show neighbors saying that they saw him with a crossbow on multiple occasions, and that includes Sigfredo Ceja Alvarez, who is now accused of killing Jonathan Joss.
Disturbances, welfare checks, and mental health calls. Police visited actor Jonathan Joss's home more than 60 times since the beginning of 2024. Neighbors were very familiar with what they call a long-standing feud between Joss and Sigfredo Ceja Alvarez, the man now charged in his murder.
You know, they would back and forth, say things to each other.
Joss and his husband, Tristan Kern de Gonzalez, have said threats were repeatedly made toward them because of their sexual orientation. But neighbors tell us threats were being made both ways. Alvarez reporting Joss would threaten him too.
You know, he would say that, he had been threatened by him and that, he would show him a gun every once in a while. He would throw things over his fence.
Joss was reportedly at the site of his former home to pick up mail. The house burned down in January, which we also see in the calls for service. In a post, Kern de Gonzalez implied that this was related to sexual orientation. Quote, that home was burned down after over 2 years of threats from people in the area who repeatedly told us they would set it on fire. But when Joss spoke to reporters back in January, he said the city shut off power to his house.
It's been so cold lately that my partner and I have been doing a fire inside to stay warm.
The San Antonio Fire Department did open an investigation, but we're told today that the case has since been closed.
We've requested the documents from that investigation, and we've asked the fire department if they can say for sure whether that fire was arson or if it was accidental. We'll let you know when we hear back. For now, reporting live, I'm Jordan Elder.
So much to unpack.
Joss's home more than 60 times in the past year and a half. Here's a quick snapshot at just a few of the calls. On March 23rd of last year, police were called to the home over a dispute over a vehicle. On May 24th, police were called for reports of shots fired. Responding officers said they heard shots when they got there, but nobody was found to have been shot. On July 9th, officers were back at the house, this time investigating reports that someone had a crossbow and was pointing it at people. The crossbow was confiscated by police.
We've also confirmed that the city's Dangerous Assessment Response Team, or DART, was involved in the property where Joss and his husband were living. The DART team first got involved in July of 2024, as they do with properties that are considered to be a nuisance or dangerous. The city issued a notice to vacate the house because of its dangerous conditions. That was going to be in August. Then the city decided the home should be demolished. All of that finalized by September. But the house hadn't been torn down when a fire started this January. That took place on January the 23rd.
Fucking wow.
And then the house was demolished 7 days later.
We also found out today the man accused in the crime has posted $200,000 bond
bond and is set to be released, but there will be some terms. He's under full house arrest, subject to drug and alcohol testing. He is prohibited from having any firearms, no guns. He has a court hearing set for August 19th. We've also uncovered new audio from the day of the shooting in which Joss died.
That audio video coming from a security camera at a home along Dorsey Street where that shooting happened. Take a listen.
No está. Sí, no está. No está la troca.
Surveillance camera footage captures the shots that killed the King of the Hill star on Sunday. Some in the neighborhood say this was a feud that started with a property dispute between Joss and the brother of the man accused of killing him. Yami Virgin from our sister station Fox SA continues our team coverage now from the site of this shooting. Yami.
According to neighbors here on Dorsey Street, many were excited when they found out who Jonathan Joss was. King of the Hill, everybody knew him. So they were excited when he got here, but a few years later, a feud started, and it was not with the neighbor who allegedly shot him.
This has been going on for years. I think it's just two people that I guess couldn't stand living next to each other for whatever reasons.
This neighbor, who asked not to be identified out of fear for their safety, says the argument over the fence line was between Sigfredo Ceja's relative, who lived between Jonathan Joss and Ceja. But they tell us the feud then grew between Ceja and the King of the Hill star.
They both had their part in it, and it just escalated, and somebody, went and hurt the other, and it shouldn't have happened. I don't think it should be turned into a hate crime though, because now it's affecting the entire neighborhood, and we're all being looked at as we were harassing Jonathan and his husband because they were homophobic, and that's not the case at all.
Coming up at 6 o'clock, some are calling this a hate crime. We speak to a former DA who tells us what the threshold is for that to be considered in this case. Reporting from the South Side, Yami Virgen, News 4 San Antonio.
The official King of the Hill Facebook page posted a message today about Joss's passing. The show's creators saying, quote, his voice will be missed. We extend our deepest condolences to Jonathan's friends and family.
Yeah, his voice will be missed, but you didn't have him in the reboot. And the John Redcorn character is in the trailer, so Parks and Recreation cast are mourning Jonathan Joss. When news of the sudden and violent death of actor Jonathan Joss broke, Parks and Rec star Nick Offerman said the cast were heartbroken. Joss, who appeared in a recurring role as Chief Ken Hotate, was shot and killed on June 1st after a dispute with a neighbor turned violent. Offerman, who portrayed Ron Swanson in the hit sitcom, released a statement to People saying that he and his former Parks and Rec co-stars have been mourning the loss of Joss. The cast has been texting together about it all day. We're just heartbroken. Jonathan was such a sweet guy. We loved having him as our Chief Ken Hotete. A terrible tragedy. Offerman sending his condolences, but also dunking on some chuds on Twitch. Slams the homophobic Ron Swanson meme posted by, was it Roger Flynn? Was that his name? Michael Flynn. That was the stupid fuck's name. Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor. Nick Offerman had no time for homophobic Ron Swanson memes. The actor, 54, took to Twitter to call out a post from Michael Flynn Jr., the son of the former national security advisor, used a Parks and Rec character to express opposition to Pride Month. Flynn's post included a clip of Ron Swanson throwing a computer in the trash, but with a rainbow flag superimposed over the computer. Just wanted to post how I feel about Pride Month, Flynn wrote. In response, Offerman slammed Flynn as dumb while pointing out that Ron Swanson was best man at a gay wedding. The Emmy-winning actor wrote, Happy Pride. What a fucking beard he's rocking there, too. apparently, we're all loving Pride Month. We eat it up around here. We absolutely celebrate it. But apparently, the coach for Wake Forest, not into Pride Month festivities, was caught mouthing a homophobic slur. Texas has just beat Tennessee.
Forest head coach just came out for a word with home plate umpire Casey Moser, with dangerous Andrew Fisher standing in.
Oh, yeah, there it was.
You know Andrew Fisher would love something resembling a kill shot here.
In case you didn't see it.
Fisher standing in.
I could almost hear it.
Andrew Fisher would love.
Wow.
Wake Forest head coach just came out for a word with home plate umpire Casey Moser, with dangerous Andrew Fisher standing in. You know Andrew Fisher would love. Forest head coach just came out for a word with home plate umpire Casey Moser, with dangerous Andrew Fisher standing in.
What did he say about bagels? Ponder Monkey, good evening. What is this, a honey badger? I think it's a honey badger. I got a honey badger for you. Yeah, we watched a different video. They apparently do that backing up shit. They try to look intimidating, but they're just kind of cute. I told you it was going to be a long one. What, almost 4 hours. Almost 4 hours of a show, but I owed it to you. We had a lot of news to catch up on. I've still got so much other shit I want to cover. You had a coach like that? Mouthing homophobic slurs or wiggling their ass and backing up? Like a honey badger. That's so adorable. Oh, he gnawing at the shoe. Look at cats running around. Oh, it's Maynard. Hey, Maynard. Come over here, Bubby. You want me to grab Maynard? You want to see Maynard? What gave it away objectively? The fact that I have a cat named Maynard James Kitten? Damn, War Machine. That's that toxic masculinity. The effect that Maynard has had on my life cannot be understated. I had a whole relationship that started over Maynard, the cat or the person. Well, the cat I adopted because his name was Maynard. I was like, well, that's just the universe telling me that he needs to be my cat, right? Hey, Bubby. But then there's the whole, well, one, I've seen Tool twice, A Perfect Circle 3 times, Pussifer 3 times. Is that right? I might be off. I've so many times now. The honey badger is awfully cute. If you're watching on Twitch, you're going to head over to Igloo. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol live.